Hello, hello. Happy Monday. Hayes Athletics. All right, got feedback from several playtesters about challenge mode this weekend. Needs to figure out what to do about it. What's working, what isn't, and what needs to change. So there's our command, but we are going to start with tenets. I think this should be interesting. Not the tenets, the what's working and what isn't. Because I don't know what this is going to be, and I don't have any great ideas right now. And I'm not even totally sure I understand the problems. Anyway, sustainability. Did I stream every day last week? I think so. I think this is back on track. Bricklaying, this is definitely fine. We launched the new playtest version, meaning I must have thought that everything was good enough. And I spent a good chunk of this weekend. This is kind of weird how this tenet is, not wasting the opportunity. I'm doing everything I can to make Skeleseller successful. I don't think this is just like... Yeah, I already have this written down. I want to make sure this isn't counter sustainability. Yeah, I think this is fine too. I reach out to playtesters, watch their videos, compiled their feedback. Hey, Leaper Girl. Hey, Phil. Hey, Scholar. Happy Monday. Happy Monday. Thank you. Okay, so I think things are going well on the tenant front. I got a bunch of feedback, and I wrote it all here, and you all have access to this document if you cared about it, which I don't suggest reading through this or anything. But there's one thing in particular that I want to focus on, because I've heard this feedback a decent amount. So let me go start a new thing in here. Also, I do think rebranding the mode to the bone system would probably be good. But yeah, I want to see, so perks for buildings and adventurers that you don't have. What do I write here? D-date. Yeah. So I've heard this from a few people, although it's been across a couple of different playtests. So it's hard to say. Well, I'll just say, so things have changed in between. Did I have a good weekend? Yeah. Saturday, my wife and I went apple picking, and I just had this idea a while ago. We finally went. It was fantastic. We went to this place that it was just one of the first Google results, and I didn't expect it to be like packed. Yeah, we got there right when it opened. There were already cars lining up, and it was just such a wholesome, nice time. We picked a bunch of apples, and then we got like apple cider and an apple donut, and then we went out and got brunch, and then we went to the library, and yeah, it was just a good day. And then yesterday, both yesterday and the day before, I spent a lot of time watching the Skeleseller videos that people recorded, and that has also been helpful. And then I played some video games and stuff. Hey, Matt. And yeah, now that we're back to this, and it's almost October, I really want to make sure we're on the right track with this. And I'm about to write down all the thoughts that I have here. But in short, it comes down to some people don't like a certain decision. And is it because of them or the decision? That's basically it. So, for example, if I made Minecraft and some people are like, hey, this game isn't fun, you'd be like, well, that's on you, because Minecraft is super successful. And I'm not saying this in a bad way. Like, everyone's entitled to their own opinion, and it's okay if things aren't for everyone. But what if it's the decision? So instead of I made Minecraft, it's I made E.T. on Atari. Like, nobody liked that game. So that's the game's fault. So yeah, I'm trying to figure that out, and that's what we got to talk about. An apple hill near us. Yeah, I think we're going to do this yearly too. I just really liked it. Now, with that said, so I normally buy apples for apparently $2.20 per pound. I looked into the price, and at this place it was $3.50 per pound. So it's more expensive for you to pick them yourself. Not like the apples taste any different. They're all coming from the same farms anyway, probably. But still, it was a nice experience. I don't mind paying a little extra when I know for sure it's going toward a thing that I think is good. I used to feel that way about farmers markets. Like any product you'd buy, let's say it was $3, maybe it'd be $5 at a farmers market. But now it feels like something that's $3 will now be like $10 or whatever. And I'm like, okay, there's a limit to how much I'm willing to spend just because I'm supporting someone local. And it's not like quadruple the price. Yeah, so it's across a couple different playtests. Things have changed in between them. People don't like getting offered perks. Whoops, what is going on right now? Huh. I must have pressed something. Perks for buildings and adventurers that they don't have. Hey, Goose, long time no see. How's it going? Hey, Adrian. Good to see you too. How have the last 8 months been? Funny thing about farmers markets where I live is I used to work for the food distributor they used to get their produce through. Some of them are actual farmers, or well, I guess they're not all just produce. Excuse me, but some people make the goods that they bring. But even then, there's still a limit to how much I feel like I'm willing to pay, especially when it's something I can make myself. So like, let's say they're cookies, or let's say there's something really simple like chocolate chip cookies. This is not something super special. The cookies I make taste delicious. So if I just want delicious cookies, I'm not going to spend like $100 on a set of cookies. At that point, I'd be like, I'm just going to make them myself. There is a point where I'd buy them at $1 per cookie or something. I'd be like, okay, you know what? Fine, I'm supporting somebody. But yeah, I'm not going to spend like $5 on one cookie. Comments about prices really fitting well there. Is that a Dutch thing? Interesting. Busy working on moving stuff? Oh, cool. I hope that's going well. Yeah, so in general, my thought process is that the reason why I don't just offer perks for things you have is because I think it would quickly get out of control. Well, there are reasons why they would quickly get out of control. If you only have the farm, then oh yeah, the perk pool would seem smaller. If you only have the farm, then practically every choice you make could go into powering that up. It's even worse with adventurers, where you would never hire a second adventurer. Perk pool would seem smaller, and this is the whole reason that meta perks exist, is to give you a leg up at the beginning of a challenge. Still supporting local farmers for the most part, but it's not like farm to stand produce. Huh. Interesting. Who's there at the stands then? Because I was going to say at the farmers markets I've been to around here, now granted I live in Washington, it's the people who own the businesses in general. So like there might be a honey shop and it's like, well, they're just beekeepers or they've got berries because they have a berry farm. The owners here aren't. Wait, I read that. Yeah. Huh. Okay. Yeah, I wonder what I would feel if I went to one of those, like in Texas. Would I just assume that they're owning the businesses? Granted, I don't even go to them as much anymore because one, prices rose a ton, and two, um, the novelty kind of died down when I went a bunch of times. Okay, and the mode is called challenge mode. So it would remove what little challenge there is. Okay, so reasons to offer perks. It would cut through this feedback. It could open up a new gameplay route where you purposely don't build other stuff. Oh yeah, and I think this would lead to you playing out each run the exact same way. power level a single adventurer, max out a building, which you'd basically be able to choose. Purposely don't build other stuff. And yeah, that's it. So ways we could potentially work around this. One is ease people into challenge mode a bit more. Maybe the first level or two could heavily steer you toward a feel more fun. The key thing I agree with here is that it feels bad to be offered something that won't help you now. However, what I think most people aren't necessarily realizing is that you probably should get every building and like more than 4 adventurers at some point. So it's not that it won't ever help you. First level or two could heavily steer you toward only for things you have. We could bias perk offerings toward what you have without guaranteeing it. We could make a meta perk that starts you with more buildings or adventurers so that there are fewer things you don't have. Hey, Monadic Mind. Tricky to know if it's any different from the bigger stores. Yeah. For produce, I this is gonna sound like a stupid take probably, but I don't really notice the difference between kind of any of the produce I've had in any part of the world. And the reason it's a stupid take, it's probably just my taste buds or something. Like my wife claims that in India the produce is so much better, or at least some of the produce is so much better, and some of the kinds are better. Like Indian mangoes are better than the mangoes that I've had from over here. So okay, sure, I can believe that. But it I don't think it's like growing processes that make it better in that case. I think it's like the climate is just better suited for tropical fruits. So I don't know if I've had a green pepper, for example, where I'm like, oh my God, that was the greatest green pepper I've ever had in my life. It's like all the green peppers I've ever had taste the same. So, yeah. And I guess at least I'm sure there are differences. I'm sure someone out there can taste it. There are super tasters out there. But at least that's with just one ingredient. As soon as you get to combining the ingredients, it's like, oh, can you make a dish that tastes better than someone else making that dish? Yes, for sure. There are enough variables in that. Hey, Abundance. I'm not saying there aren't different methods or anything. I'm saying that I can't taste the difference. Like I've been to India, I've tried the produce. I haven't been like, oh my God, this is worlds better than what I've had in the US. I mean, that part's inarguable that I haven't tasted the difference. That's my own like experience. That other people can taste the difference, I'm sure they can. And mangoes straight from the tree in South Africa, since then other mangoes just don't taste as good. Yeah. Easy to cook for, confirmed. Yeah, I mean, pretty much. All right, meta perk that starts with more buildings, or we could change challenge mode in some more drastic way. Don't do random perks at all, or don't do random buildings. What else? Also, I wonder if I got a response. Okay, nice, I did. Yeah. Let me take a look. All right, I'm reading this off screen for a sec. I would show this, but give me a minute. Not necessarily inclined toward getting medals just for having them. It is only available. Okay. All right. Yeah. I want to read this to make sure this is like public enough. This is in the Skeleseller Discord. It's not a DM or anything, but it's in a section of the Discord that's hidden from most people. Anyway, yeah, I think what this comes down to is what is the identity of challenge mode? Yeah. I think what this comes down to is what is the identity of challenge mode? With a name like challenge mode, it indicates that there's some difficulty and probably something to work toward. There certainly is skill expression, but that may not be what people are looking for. Kind of hard to figure that out. You have a reward available? Oh, this. Can you hide this? There we go. Surprised streamer mode doesn't hide that. I guess it's never private. Although, who knows, maybe they could eventually be private. Hey, Flare. So I don't... let me back up here. So the base game was, it's sort of like clear that people are having fun. If I were to ask why, I'd say it's sort of laid back. There's enough new stuff to discover. There's usually something to do, and there's something to work toward. And I think it's that last part is your goal. Is either story driven or at least like in-game goals to advance things. I feel like I shared this a few days ago. Maybe you did, but thank you for the 26 months. Hi. It might have been for a different number of months. So I guess that same thing exists in challenge mode, which is how do I advance things? Problem is that there's no difficulty. So we arbitrarily add it via the timer and medals. This is revealing that I don't have any great ideas here. Let me launch the game. Because this is one of the like classic game design problems at a high level, which is, I want to make sure this is muted, which is you have some number of variables in a game and with the game design, I guess. So for example, you have mechanic A, mechanic B, mechanic C, and let's say people like those. Now you try introducing mechanic D and people don't like it. Well, you might be like, okay, let's keep this one in, but now let's take B out. And now people like it again. Like we had to make one change to get that to work. But maybe you also had to get rid of mechanic C and people really like the combo of A and D. And it would have taken two changes to get this to work. But in trying this, because you're not going to know for sure what's best, in trying this, maybe you first start by removing A and people are like, oh, I don't like this. I don't like the combo of B and D. So then you're like, okay, well, let's get rid of this. And they're like, still, I don't like this. How many of these combinations do you try? And it's not like you're just trying in the dark. You have some inclination toward what's working. But I kind of feel that same way here. It's like we started and challenge mode was supposed to be difficult. There was a lose condition. There were no meta perks. And I don't know if there were any other general things. So anyway, these are the variables. If you consider these to be mechanics, this was like A, B, and C. And then we realized that, okay, people don't like the difficulty and the lose condition, or at least so we got rid of the lose condition. We got rid of no meta perks, and now we're meta perks. And now there's some feedback about perk offerings. And Yeah, I wonder, could we change this? Should we change this? Should I change some other part of this mode? And I don't think we're facing down like a 2-month long change. I think there's something small we could do here. And the simplest possible thing we could do is just rename it from challenge mode to something like bone mode. And without having the word challenge in there, it might just set your expectations a little bit differently. Because when I think of these things, I think they're basically just different starting points. Yeah, so what challenge mode is right now? Different starting points in the form of the challenges. Farming mode starts you with the farm. Practically maxed out. A condensed gameplay experience. So rather than spend like 2 to 5 hours building up a town, you spend about 20 to 30 minutes. And then a complete reimagining of how you unlock things. Chivo mode. I mean, it could be that. This is where I found this very difficult. We had like perks, we have meta perks, we had twists, we had the difficulty constraints, and we have, I guess, achievements at some point. It's like, where do you put a certain new mechanic that you want? It's like, if it's positive, should it go into this, or should it go into this, or should it have gone into twists? If it's negative, should it have gone into one of these 3 things? Like win without ever taking any damage or something. Oh, that could be an achievement. It doesn't have to be a requirement. And there are differences to these things. It's like a constraint would be set at the beginning of the run. A twist would have been offered in the middle of a run. An achievement would be something optional that's probably crazy that most people are just not going to care about, but that some people do. So it's like a slightly different way of playing. So they all kind of had their reasons for being in certain spots, but it was difficult to figure out which one should be where. Also, I don't want to over-index on some of this. I want to see, maybe there's somewhere else I can look back to. It's September 29th right now. If we look back to like September 3rd, let me read some of this. Love Ascension mechanics because done right, you aren't spending all your time replaying your progress. You're getting a worthy power-up that lets you blow past something that was previously hard. Some sort of meta progression would be wonderful. So we did the meta progression part. I'm just wondering, yeah, and then we also got rid of twists. But did anyone else talk about the perk choice stuff? They weren't for anything I wanted or needed. First 10 adventure perks were for adventures I didn't have. Because this is part of, like, when you could lose, you could look at this as being a problem. But when you can't lose, I'm not sure it is. And this is another thing I was thinking about. I was just talking about this with my wife this morning. It's like, if the beginning of the runs have a problem that gets eradicated by the end of the runs, or like the beginning challenges, I guess, it gets eradicated by the final challenges, then you'll lose players who won't wait around that long. So we probably need to solve this at the beginning and then maybe introduce the higher difficulty. I mean, that would be this, ease people into challenge mode more. I think this is also kind of interesting. Yeah, what if we like greatly reduced meta perks that you can have? There are ones for starting with specific buildings or adventures. I don't know what this does. Like, doesn't this kind of trivialize the game? Is that the point of the mode though, is trivializing the game? And would this have even helped? So yeah, I wonder if we just said something like 25 perk points, start with the farm, 25 perk points, start with the enchanter, and so on and so forth. So then when you have 150 perk points, it's start with everything. No, this isn't an explicit meta perk. It's just a sum of the other 6. And then same thing with the adventurers. We say like start with the rogue, start with the archer, start with the ... And then this is what, 9 of these? So it'd be a 225. Start with all adventurers. So when you have 375 perk points, it's start with everything. So now the only decisions you make are which perks to get. That's it. Hey, Pedro. Is that fun? Do you feel like you've successfully sort of broken the game? Arguably, story mode itself trivializes the game over time. Yeah, but that's sort of how any single player game experience works, right? Like, well, anything with progress, you get better, but then also the game scales a little bit for you to get better. And then if you ever went back to old content, you would feel like it's super easy. At least most RPGs work that way. The only RPGs that don't, I guess, are the ones with, well, not the only ones that don't, but the main ones that don't are the ones with level scaling, where it's like, well, enemies are always your level. Then you can never go back to the starter area and feel like, oh yeah, I'm super powerful. Hey, Captain Anosa. Howdy, howdy, howdy. So is this fun? I mean, the whole point of the mode is for things to be broken. But you essentially accomplish this through the trade-offs of everything. Maybe we make the final 10 challenges no longer offer positives, just negatives, and you lean on your meta perks. Hey, Kevin. It has a level system, but starter area is still level 1. Wait, what I was trying to say is I think most RPGs don't have level scaling. So it's like if you're level 50 and go to the starter area, you'll smoke everything. The ones that do have it, if you're level 50, so are enemies. Or, well, not exactly this, but it's like enemies are stronger too. So you might feel like you've gotten a little bit better. I don't know I've never played an Assassin's Creed game. So if the starter area is still level 1, then that means that there's no level scaling in the starting area at least. So I would slot it into this. It's an RPG with no level scaling. Or it's an RPG with selective level scaling where later on enemies get harder or something. Anyway, it doesn't matter too much. My only point was I think a lot of games will have you trivialize early game content while still scaling with the mid or late game content. Does it mean that everyone else in the world catches up with your level? Yeah, basically. So like World of Warcraft eventually did this. You could go to any zone and you could start leveling, and it didn't matter what the zone was. Like you could have a level 20 player in there and they're getting experience, and a level 50 player in there and they're getting experience. And I don't think that's the norm for a lot of games, but some games it makes a little more sense to do. And almost every open world game needs some form of scaling because they don't know what order you'll do the content in. So it wouldn't be fun if you tackled the sort of medium difficulty content first, and you're like, I don't want to do easy stuff now. So it's like, okay, well, we'll scale it up a little bit for you. Anyway, so okay, let's say if this is the case. So now you're on, I don't know, like challenge 17 when you've unlocked all of this. So you're just getting to a broken run even sooner. I wonder if I should just test this out and see if this is interesting at all. It does ramp up the starting speed. it does also trivialize the starting challenges. That's a, yeah. I think some people would find this fun. I don't know if they would wait around to unlock all of these meta perks. We could also just make it something like this. Yeah, this might be a better formulation. Like, unlock buildings. This is a meta perk specifically for players who don't like being offered perks for things they don't have. And we say like level 1, get 1 random building. And it costs like, I don't know, 25 perk points. And then we just scale it up from there. We could say it's like 75, get 2 random buildings. Level 3, I don't know, maybe it's always just plus 50 or something. Get 3 random buildings. Yeah, and then same thing with adventurers. Level 1 is 25 perk points. Get +1. This could be, I don't know, maybe it scales a little differently. Get +2 and then get +3. Hey, Juan. I think you shouldn't be able to complete advanced challenges without perks. That motivates you to choose the better perks and farm points. I mean, I think you're already motivated to get better perks and farm points. It's like you'll complete challenges faster. Also, it'll probably be more fun for you. I think it comes down to like, at what point are you trivializing the challenges? And that's my whole assumption with all this stuff is like, if you do start with everything unlocked, there's not a lot of fun in the game anymore because now you're spending all your money on just perks. So perks would have to cost quite a lot. And I do think we could, yeah, I don't know, but then we're assuming that you're getting these perks. Yeah, hey Smack. So if we did this, I think we would need the following. 1, later challenges make everything cost a ton, assuming that you have these perks. And then is that fun? I just, man, it's all just feels so arbitrary to me. It's like we add in a feature to work around something, which kind of trivializes the game. So now to make it so the game isn't trivialized, we like drastically raise the difficulty level. So now for the people who didn't opt for these things, they're going to have just a hard time playing the game. If I want my 1 random building to be the farm, just reset the challenge till I get it. I'm not talking about that problem. We could change this to something like there's a seed, and every time you restart the run, you're going to get the exact same building. Also, it's another one of those things where it's like, I didn't want people to have the exact same order every time. I don't think that would be fun for players. Like, if you can start with a farm every single time and you've got all your perks set up for the farm, then you're going to play every single run the same way, which is like, oh, I started with a farm, so I'm going to level up adventurers. And it's like, now you might not pick the perk where you are offered treasure in the warehouse because you're like, oh, I haven't gotten the farm, but I did get the warehouse. Now I'll get treasure in the warehouse. Maybe the fun of a replay mode is just the perks enabling you to go crazy. Oh, sorry, maybe I didn't see your last one. Could be the base game again plus perks to speed it up to make you go crazy. Yeah, I already feel like oh, hang on one second. Engage privacy mode. Engage privacy mode. There. Okay, sorry. I have a program open that I should not have open, which is Signal. Is there anything else that I haven't looked through? Hang on one sec. Close that stuff. No, that's everything. Okay. Yeah, I already feel like the game lets you go crazy now. So like here, it's you start with a farm and many related perks. So when you actually just enter the run here, we have this at level 3, this at level 4, this only has 1 level, and then this at level 3. So we've given you whatever that is, 11 perks or something, and we've given you the farm, which would have cost you 25. And granted, there are some difficulty constraints to go along with that. But now as you start getting some items, it's like, oh, you could just dump these into the extractor and you're going to get much more power than you would have in a regular run. So like this is a different starting point. And then the meta perks are already there to let you get the rest of the stuff faster too. But yeah, I wonder. What I mean is no negatives, positive only. I see. So you'd get rid of some of this stuff. Yeah, we could do that. Hang on 1 second. Okay, sorry. Yeah, so we could do that. We can get rid of the negatives. I mean, I didn't even code them eventually at some point here. They were all just positives. The first couple had them, but we could get rid of those. Of the negatives on the first like 10 challenges. Okay, so here's what I'm thinking if we were to do this. What I'm leaning toward from this conversation at least. Keep the first 10 challenges basically the same. Maybe we even remove the negatives from those challenges. Later challenges would just offer you less so that you're leaning more on your meta perks. And meta perks could be added to start you with more buildings or more adventurers. And we just make the costs somewhat prohibitive. Take it with a heavy grain of salt. I also kind of like a little challenge, so I'm not really a target audience for that kind of thing. Well, at any point, and this is what I'm also not sure how many people are going to fall into this, but like here I have 135 perk points. You could just choose not to spend any of them. And it could be like, my challenge is what I'm creating for myself, which is I have no points I can spend. So now I'm going to crank this up to level whatever. I recognize this is showing a UI problem here. I'm going to crank it up to level 15 and I'm going to try with no perks. And maybe that is really difficult. Or maybe you start yourself with, I don't know, just some really basic stuff. So you can increase the difficulty yourself by just not spending your points. Again, I don't know how many people are going to want to do that. The way I kind of look at it is that if the game is offering you these things, then you're probably going to take them. Was there something else we had here that I talked about? Maybe these are where we start adding constraints. Okay, that could be it, but yeah, that could be it. Maybe we have the first challenge be some like crazy challenge. Maybe the first challenge does start you with everything or only offers perks for things you have to show the crazy power level you would get. Because these are not like sweeping big changes that are hard to do. Like keep the challenges the same. That's basically saying don't do any work. Removing the negatives is dead simple too. I would just go into here and I would delete this for, well, no, I guess not that. These seeds cost more enemy. So there, that's like I delete this and I delete this and it's like bullet point number 1, done. So that's dead simple. Later challenges will offer you less. So I haven't coded the later challenges, but again, this is pretty simple. That's where we'd start putting in something like, okay, seeds cost more. So this is like a no farm run. And I think that idea could potentially work. Especially if you have the meta perks. Then maybe the first challenge does start you with everything. This is interesting. I usually don't like roguelikes for that reason. I'm not it's not sure that I'm realistically able to beat a run without the meta perks. Makes me question, am I just bad or do I need to grind? Yeah, I get that too. And I think the games I especially don't like this are games with microtransactions that do this, where it's like there's some kind of damage check. And if you paid money, then you always pass that check. And if you don't pay money, you're like, should this battle be taking like 10 minutes? It's like, yep, that's what they wanted. They wanted you to feel like this is taking way too long, so go spend money. So any game with microtransactions that do that, I think are really bad. What I don't want is to do all challenges first try, and I want to use the meta perks depending on the challenge to have a feeling that I'm choosing them smartly, and also depending on the RNG of the random perks. Wait, Juan, I can't remember. Did you try challenge mode? And if so, when? Because your opinions might be based on maybe the older systems. I don't remember if or when I gave you access. So, yeah. Let's see, leaning more on your meta perks. These are where we start adding constraints. And then, like, I guess the questions I would have, would we change meta perks? I think we need to do something to make it clearer which ones work with the current challenge, at the very least. Some have literally no purpose. E.g., clear rocks is already given to you on the farming challenge. This may not be hard to do, but I wonder if there's just a better way of doing this. I keep coming back to, like, what if we only allowed you to have, like, X equipped meta perks? And maybe you could expand X slightly as you go. Sorry for telling things already just. No. It's not. It's not that. I think there's actually a different kind of sort of minor problem here, which is I think a lot of this is based on feel. And I think the feel comes from experience more from watching somebody play. And I think that's what's really valuable to me is like, okay, now that I played and now I'm encountering that like this mode is fun. I don't expect a challenge out of it, let's say. So just rename it from challenge mode. That could be the feedback that I get from that. And yeah, should we rename the mode entirely? Or set expectations differently? I mean, these things at the top, I think, are probably just always going to be there. Like, it's the name of the system. We talk about randomized choices and we talk about how you can get meta perks. This thing about playtesters is going to be gone. And then no way of choosing the challenge and everything. It's like, I don't think this is too crazy. I think it's a little bit too much text, but not a ton. And I think it's probably exacerbated a bit by having these constraints in the early challenges, which we could change, as Magnetic Bind suggested, to just be like, you just start with a farm. This other stuff is not there. And maybe challenge number 15 has that. Or maybe after that, there's just a random, like there's a single challenge that just gives you 3 difficulty modifiers. Well, I guess then you couldn't account for them. But if you have all the buildings and all the adventurers, you wouldn't need to account for them. What if we had a final challenge that is more customizable, that lets you pick how many difficulty modifiers you want to add to the start of the run? Then it randomizes some of them. For this run, seeds cost more, enemies do more damage, and what else? I don't know. You only have 1 worker. I suspect people would think this feels bad because it's not a challenge we handcrafted. Although it's a final mode, I guess it depends on how many challenges there are. If there are like 20 challenges, and then at the end we're like, all right, well you completed all the content, so now if you want to, here's another thing you can do. Maybe people would play that. Hmm. I want to look through some of the other feedback I had just to see, because what's weird about this is I can't think of another game like this where it's like it's a roguelike where you can't lose and you can be offered choices that don't help you right now, but will be guaranteed to help you on a long enough time horizon. Which we're not talking like years here. We're talking like 15 minutes or 25 minutes or something. Because I think this combo is strange. And because this combo is strange, I think people, it rubs them the wrong way a little bit. Like you're expecting a roguelike where you can lose. So then choices that don't help you right now are choices that you wouldn't be taking. Mm. Codex. Getting gold unlocks new game plus. Restart the game with a random permanent negative modifier. This is a joke. Please don't do this. I think the non-jokey thing in there though is you could say for any given challenge that like every time you beat it, you could have it add in a random, like you could have it add in X random negative modifiers. I don't I don't think I'd want to do this because I think it would feel grindy. Like, oh, I need to beat it to get to where the challenge is, but I'm already good enough to be able to take on 5 of these or something. It's too complicated to manage. Yeah, I don't. I think there's a way we could have done this. By the way, this is what originally was the difficulty system, right? We had easy, medium, hard, and very hard, and you could just jump to anyone that you wanted to. So it'd be kind of like that. In fact, that actually pretty much is what we did, except for they weren't random. Easy was like no modifiers. Medium added 1, hard added 2, very hard added 3. But yeah, I've pivoted a lot since then. Again, I look at what's the base game. The base game is casual, laid back, go at your own pace. I mean, I'm kind of repeating myself here, and just the focus is fun. So then this new mode, I think, needs to match most of that. It needs to be casual, laid back, fun. The go at your own pace, I think, is kind of optional at that point. Like you could choose to be rushed, in which case you're going to try to get medals, and then it's just so that you could see a bunch of medals on the screen. Which is why I want to look at more feedback to see what other people had said. Where's the first bits of challenge mode feedback? Oh yeah, it's back when the screen looked like that. Crazy. Oh man, I don't know when the first launch of this was. Given where the pictures start, I'm assuming it was after this point. Yeah. I think it's somewhere around here. August 8th. Oh, and this too. Had 3 runs on hard mode, definitely doable. Okay, let me scroll through this a little bit and see what other people have been saying. Not successfully completed, but it's still been fun. Then we ran into some issues here. Trying to pull back my compulsive habit of getting every town perk and building. Hmm. Okay, let's jump to present. Man, this is difficult. Because, like I said, there's any number of ways you could go with this, and maybe things are pretty decent right now, and we're like close to them being great. And there's only so much iteration I wanted to do on this and getting feedback, just in terms of like time held up going toward launch. So, yeah, where would this put us? Keep the challenges basically the same. Change the first challenge as you get offered perks for things you have. I mean, we have that tutorial mode. I wonder how many people skip the tutorial thing. Maybe I should just make challenge 1 be the tutorial. Yeah, probably. Maybe just make challenge, well, or like challenge number 0 be required, but have it be super powered. You start with a few buildings. You only get perks for buildings you have, etc. Yeah, I mean, I think all this is pretty reasonable. And then for challenge number 1, we say something like all challenges from here on out will now offer perks for buildings you don't have. And this isn't even really a constraint. It's just a special constraint for number 0. Yeah. So sorry, adding constraints with the understanding that you'll probably be starting with several buildings and adventurers. So most runs will start with you jumping to the jungle directly and trivializing the game. Yeah, so we have like the first set of challenges. It's just for fun. You break the game, you play through, maybe it's like 10 challenges at about like 20 to 30 minutes each. So it takes you somewhere, I don't know, like let's say 3 to 6 hours or something like that. And then the last 10 challenges, you have tons of meta perks. So we add some negatives, like perks cost more, enemies have more life and power. Yeah. Hey, Roosevelt. Yeah, I know. I know you're under. I was listening on and off making lunch, but the thing you said where you might change the expectations around challenge mode makes sense. But one thing I still don't get is it like a bonus mode or the intended for players to play more? So let me say this. It is just more content in my mind. The original goal, which I don't think is really the goal anymore, is like make an infinitely replayable thing. This is no longer the goal. So if the base game is a target of like 4 to 5 hours of play, then this new mode would be maybe like 5 to 10 hours of play. Now, obviously, in order for a player to want to get past, minute number 5 or minute number 10, they have to be having fun in that very first experience that they have. And I know you gave it enough of a shot where you determined, okay, it's not getting more fun for me. I'm not even sure if these changes would have alleviated that. Like the main things that I think would help would be the first challenge would let you see like here's what the power fantasy is. You're getting all the perks that you need and you're starting with a bunch of stuff and you're just like blitzing through this game. And then after that, we pull back the power a little bit and we rely on your meta perks. Yeah, maybe we even tell you after this challenge that you'll eventually get back to this power level after getting enough meta perks. Why is your keyboard so small? Like, why would I opt to use a keyboard of this size? It was mostly like less finger movement, less hand and finger movement. So as an example, if you were to type this out, let's say you type, how are you doing today? And it's like, oh, I made a typo. I'm using the arrow keys without moving my hands now. And I go and fix this. Whereas you might, unless you're like a Vim user or something, you might move your hand to another part of the keyboard, press the arrow keys, and then move it back. So yeah, this is the short answer. Just less hand and finger movement. And I can still do everything I would normally do on a computer just by hardly moving my hands. And welcome to the stream, Wolga. Yeah, anyway, going back to what I was saying. So the only things that would affect this are, I guess, challenge 0 will let you know what your max power would be. And then these meta perks would eventually let you start with other buildings. But if you get to challenge number 2 and you don't like that you're getting offered perks for things you don't have, I don't know if you'd keep playing to get to this point. And yeah, Derizabel, that's kind of what I'm wondering about. Like, if you could think back to how you felt after that first challenge, if you saw these meta perks, whereas like meta perk, start with 1 random building, would you be like, oh, okay, that kind of alleviates my problem? And then you see like level 2 is start with 2. I think it still doesn't tackle what I think is the biggest issue, which is the incentive to come back every run. Okay, interesting. I took the biggest issue that you had to be that you were offered perks for things you don't have. In your video, you commented on it, I think at least 3 times. And then you commented on it afterward too. Interesting. Yeah, I think the why would you come back would be you're having fun. So I guess what you're really asking is like, how is this mode fun? And I guess what I ask is like, how is the base game fun? Because presumably you found the base game fun enough to want to join the playtest. So what did you like about the base game, I suppose? By the way, the other conclusion I could have from this stuff is like, I think challenge mode won't be for everyone. Whatever this thing is called, challenge mode in quotes, won't be for everyone. There are some people who said they don't like roguelike games at all. And just the idea of getting random choices didn't appeal to them. And I was like, okay, then yeah, I don't think there's anything we can do here. Because I want that randomness to be core to this mode. And it's not like we're going to have a bunch of dev resources to go make another like 2 modes to potentially pull in that person too. It's like, well, okay, hopefully they like the base game. And yeah, I wonder if this is like meeting its sort of fun amount that I expected. I would expect this to eventually show that enough people are playing. We've had 11 people play a total of 57 runs since the new patch. Which if you just, on average, that's whatever, 5 point something runs, 5.18 or something. Like, that's not bad. Really love the numbers getting bigger feel of it. The novelty of finding new things, adventures, buildings, areas. Yeah, so the new stuff is essentially a no-go for this mode. And that's why we made that. There are perks that change gameplay that aren't in the base game. So that's the only real new content, but like no new adventurers, no new major systems. There'd just be really small stuff. So that's kind of cut out for this. I think, you know. But the numbers getting bigger thing is definitely still there. The incentive is to get the achievement to beat challenge 21 with all the negative starting things. I think for some players that might be an incentive, but I still think achievements are for the minority of players. And I think that for the majority of players, knowing that there's still content in the game that hasn't been beaten, I think is sometimes enough. Like, I'm playing Donkey Kong Bonanza right now, and I haven't made it to the end of the game. I'm actually not having a ton of fun playing that game, to be honest. But I know that there's more content, and that if I were having fun, I'd just like continue to do the content that's there. I should probably go back to that game at some point and try it out some more. Sounds to me like the perks are the draw since they're the new content. I think the draw is like a little different from that to me. I think the draw is still the what I keep calling this like power fantasy, which is basically the numbers getting bigger thing. But and it's like how you get there, and it's feeling like you broke the game. And the perks are just how you accomplish that. So yeah. Anyway, I will write this down, what Derizabel said here, because I don't know what to take from this. I guess I'll write down my thoughts from over here. I think the main thing would be that you're having fun. So this question is probably, where's the fun in this mode? Derizabel said that the fun of the base mode is unlocking things and seeing numbers go up. Yeah, sure thing, Derizabel. I think one challenge behind this mode is the numbers get bigger isn't as visible. The small increments you make happen mostly in the background. Like if your adventurers are getting stronger, you're not watching damage numbers constantly to notice how much gold per minute you're making, etc. I don't think it's as visible in the main mode either, right? Like you're still, when you upgrade any individual thing in the main mode, you get like, plus crop variety. Your average sludge per minute goes up by X%. Yeah, you're probably not paying super close attention to, oh yeah, this allowed me to get the next upgrade faster than the last one. But over the course of time, it does feel like it got faster. I get the main difference here is the condensed timeline. So you will probably notice a difference, and it will probably happen in the next minute or two, but you've got to be perceptive enough to notice that. Whereas in the extended timeline, you look back the last half hour and you think, oh, that was faster than the half hour before that. Not easy to learn a language or use a laptop keyboard when you never went to school. Proud of them for trying. Have a great stream. You'll get there. Yeah, thank you. Leave your girl. And take care. Rest up. So yeah, I think the condensed timeline might make it so that you need more perception for this, maybe. Oh, and I should probably keep an eye on Discord. Oh, hey, there's someone who joined Discord. Let me welcome them. Wave. Their name starts with a J. So I'm going to assume it's Juan. But I don't know. I have to disable streamer mode. There should be like a temporarily disable for this one person kind of thing. I guess I could just turn it off and look. I'm not going to do it. What would I, because I've come back to this a bunch of times of like, how would I have made challenge mode different? And I keep coming to the same general conclusions. Also, it's worth saying that, I mean, some people do find this fun. So it's not that it is completely unfun for everybody. That would be something where I'm like, okay, it's definitely a game problem. And I wonder if Derizabel says none of these things are going to actually affect anything, then I wonder if there's a reason to do them even. Think about VS, your North Star. It's right in your face on seeing where your power rises. I'm not saying that this is good or bad, just an observation. Since it's a casual game, most people aren't going to directly notice it without being in their face. But it's not right in your face, right? Like, at least not what I'm thinking of. If you think about, you essentially have time and you have power, but you have two different lines on here. And I don't know what they are. I don't know if they're linear or exponential, but anyway, you have one line which is you, and then you have one line which is, whoops, and then you have one line which is the enemies. So you need to gain power faster than the enemies are gaining power. That is not obvious to you. You'll see your damage numbers go up, but it doesn't really mean anything because the enemies get more health. And you'll see your armor number go up, but again, it doesn't really mean anything because enemies might do more damage. It's like not clear to you how that stuff is happening. So I don't think it is in your face in Vampire Survivors. In the same way, I don't think it's in your face here. Like, I guess the way you'd have to have it be in your face, even in Vampire Survivors, would have to be, you'd have to see like a damage per second meter and like a damage taken per second and maybe like a gold per second meter and an experience per second. Those are the things that are derived from all of your stats that you have, how fast you move, what decisions you make. And if these were in your face, then I think I'd agree. I'd be like, oh, maybe we need those for Skeleseller. Although I don't think we do need those for Skeleseller. It's so hard to articulate what I'm feeling. I appreciate that you're trying. There's an ad running, so I'll type this out. I appreciate that you're trying. Truly. I think this is what's so tough about game design, is that there's quite a lot to just processing feedback. Yeah, I've kind of said this before. I think feedback on its own is rarely valuable. There's some extra context you tend to need. And sometimes it's like player age, sometimes it's playtime, sometimes it's like preferred genre, sometimes it's which choices they made in a game, or like how much text they read. I watched another playtester play through 2 hours of the game. I don't know if they're going to be watching now. They played through about 2 hours of the game, and they complained about one thing about 14 times. And then after about 2 hours, they realized there was a solution to that thing. And they're like, oh. And they just hadn't read a lot of the text. So it's like, okay, we could try to nudge the player toward this, but at what point are they going to feel like, stop holding my hand? So like some things, yeah, this is just going to happen in some games, whether they're great games or bad games. It'll be like, oh, I could have made a better decision early on and I didn't know about that. And it might be that the game didn't tell you and you were supposed to figure it out, or the game did tell you and you didn't read it. When you can upgrade, the current wave feels easier, but then the next wave gets harder. Also, typically there's more immediately more visuals on the screen. Yeah, but there's quite a lot of chaos in that game. And I would say that there's a lot of chaos in Skeleseller too. But I guess what I'm trying to say is I don't think Vampire Survivors is clearer to you that your power has gone up than Skeleseller. I think they're both sort of equally fuzzy. Mostly about where you're easily clearing the current waves. Maybe it just doesn't feel the same to me. I see what you mean, which is kind of what Magnetic Bind is saying, which is like, oh, hey, the screen has fewer enemies on it than it did before. And then eventually it's going to kind of bulk up as the timer goes on. You know, I think a game that does this in a really fuzzy way is Risk of Rain 2. There's a timer which is exactly equal to your difficulty, or kind of more or less. The game literally just progresses from easy to medium to hard to whatever insane to a mode that just says ha 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 ha, and then you get stuck in this forever. And you can just picture an arrow slowly moving across this scale as time goes on. And it's like, I don't know what medium means. I don't know what hard means. I can just tell like enemies are too tough for me now. And it's in your face in that sort of way. But otherwise it's fuzzy for you to know how many stages should I get through when I'm at 3 minutes or 5 minutes. One thing I like to say outside of what I'm writing up is that just being fun doesn't necessarily keep players coming back for more runs. In my experience, you really need extrinsic motivation to feel like you're working towards something. Unlocking new stuff, meta perks, discovering new stuff, clearing a difficulty bar, collecting achievements. Um, I generally agree, but I think there's a sort of a bigger thing at play here, which is the monetization of this game. So it's probably going to be $15. And if just the base game were there and you get about 5 hours of gameplay, some people would say that's worth it. Most probably wouldn't. So then there's this extra mode where it's like, okay, there is more gameplay. What I'm essentially trying to do is make sure that people who buy this game feel like, one, they're having fun, and two, that it was worth the money that they paid for it. So I think there's some category of players who they like the base game, they find the idea of challenge mode fun, but they don't want to keep playing, but they felt like it was at least worthwhile for their money. I think that's another thing we're kind of trying to accomplish here. Ideally, you want every player to just want to keep playing. But yeah. Hey, Galaxy Inferno. Back for my first office day in 4 weeks. To see you work now. How often do you have to go into the office? We could change them so that they're more linear. Maybe we just have like 4 to 5 of them. Perk variety. You are offered more exotic perks during runs. Starting perks. You are given random perks at the beginning of a run. Starting buildings, starting adventurers. Start with X buildings, start with X adventurers. Starting customers and starting workers. Does that categorize kind of everything we've gotten here? Start with perks, well, I guess start with battle abilities, other categories, start with specific battle abilities, and then, yeah, let's start with random battle perks. Town versus battle. Anything else? Start with perks, start with perks, start with perks, start with battle perks, start with perks. Yep. Then these are max level increases. Those would probably be in the perk variety, either different perks or higher max levels. And then workers, yeah, okay. We could potentially do this. This would actually fix a couple of other problems too. Although I wonder if it would feel good. Once a week, but I had 3 weeks off. And then I was like, oh yeah, that's right, the vacation. Get greeted with a 6-hour meeting marathon. I'm ready for vacation now. The reality slapping you in the face. Like, hey, you like that vacation? I'm gonna let you know why you like that vacation. Hey, Oakley's, unlocking new things I think is a big drive for games like Balatro or Vampire Survivors. Player always has this overall drive to unlock all the stuff. Then there's also the intermediate goal, like beat this round, beat this boss, beat this deck with X score. Yeah, I think that's a good point. And this has been brought up before in 2 different ways. One, which is exactly what Derivative said, has actually been said before, which is I want to unlock new perks somehow. And 2 is meta perks don't feel great. Like there are a lot of them. I don't know if we need a lot of them. And I think if we simplify it to this, which is how many categories? 1, maybe 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, so I wonder if we did that. I wonder if we just had those 8 categories. If people would be like, okay, I get this, I like this, or if they'd say, this is less interesting. It would simplify things, which is, again, something I like. I really need to go back to work. I'll try to write something else later. But without making value judgments and comparing it to Skeleseller, it might be worth it to think like, how do roguelikes keep players coming back? How do games that increase difficulty do it? Oh yeah, I will say this. It's not like any of these decisions were made lightly. Like you can see even just from this document, this is 125 pages of me just going through issues that we've had in Skeleseller and trying to figure out what are the solutions to them. I've looked at other roguelike games. I've looked at why do people come back to games. I've compared, I mean, you can even see in random notes here, like I've compared other games. I've then gone and played those games to see what are they doing. I went and looked up what are the like average time for run completions, like so much of this. So I think it's a potential conclusion to say this isn't working now, so not a lot of thought went into this, but definitely a lot of thought went into this, and it might still not be working, but it's not like it was like just, oh well, in a weekend I came up with this and I'm like, I'm done. So yeah, I can think of how we can adjust this stuff. And in the end, it is possible that it's like at some point I move on and the mode isn't fun and we never make it fun. I'd like to avoid this, but I'd also like to avoid this is like one hand is this, and on the other hand is releasing in a good amount of time. Hey, I'm Diazilla. Might be some good ideas in other categories of games, not just roguelikes, that you could Frankenstein into your category. Like, why do people have 5,000 plus hours in Factorio? Yeah. You know what, though? A lot of this, I think, comes down to, like, what was your game originally designed as? So, take a game that's successful, Mario Kart, and now try to turn it into an FPS. Like, you probably can't realistically do that. I could see some ways you could maybe try to make it fun, but, like, these are just not really compatible ideas. I don't think someone would take a cartoony racing game and turn it into a first-person shooter and be like, yep, that makes sense. And in some manner, that's kind of what we're trying to do here. Skeleseller was originally designed as this like semi-active game. It's very laid back. There's like linear progression through the game. And now what we said is this new mode is, I guess it's more active. It's slightly less laid back, and it is non-linear progression, at least in the random choices. And what we've done is we've taken Mario Kart, this base game. We've been like, what if we made it into an FPS? So some of this has worked. I think it is fun. I think it's been getting more fun. And I think there are ways we can do this. And I wonder what those changes would be. Like, is this alone enough to do some of this? I kind of wonder about that. The thing is, you don't convert it into an FPS. You take inspiration of certain aspects, like the utilities of Mario Kart while racing. I think I'm not understanding what you're saying. I think my overall point is like Skeleseller started in like genre number 1, and now we're trying to convert it to genre number 2. Like, this is my goal. This is what I'm trying to do. So a lot of games don't have that as a goal. They just are like, we're just making the one game. Other games that have done this, by the way, are like Hearthstone went from card game to auto battler. They found a way to make the mechanics work. But I don't think very many games do this sort of thing. Green shell snipers. Have the ramping difficulty thing or the roguelike elements ever been implemented separately? The roguelike stuff was introduced in the original incarnation of challenge mode, which also had a way to lose. So it was random choices and also like a way to lose. People really didn't like the timer and the losing in this game. And by the way, this is why, like, this is kind of another one of those things where I feel like what's the expression people usually use? The tip of the iceberg. Like, you have a water line here, right? And you have an iceberg, and you're only seeing, this part. What's the reason I bring this up in this case is the current set of feedback. It's not clear what got us here, but this is the history that we went through with this, which is challenge. By the way, I know you have to go to work, to Isabel, so feel free to not stick around. And MDS Zilla, please don't segment your messages. So we originally had a way to lose, and people were like, this is so anti-Skeleseller. Like, I don't want this in here. And what I take this to mean is like, in general, and I know this sounds like a maybe a flattening of the nuance, but like, I don't want a challenge in challenge mode, or at least not the same way that it was originally. So we switched to, okay, there's an optional timer, there's a medal system. And it's hard to tell, is that going in the right direction? Yeah. But I basically don't think this should be called challenge mode. I don't think this should be called challenge mode. It indicates something that it isn't. It's probably giving the wrong impression. Whoop. Wait a second. What was that? I just typed give.ng and it's an actual URL? Okay, that's kind of interesting. And it has strategy and FPS aspects in it, shortcuts, utility, usage at the right time, like Balatro. It's a card game that's a roguelike. Yeah, I think our points are maybe going over one another, and I still can't tell if I'm not understanding what you're saying or if you're not understanding what I'm saying. But like Balatro was designed as a roguelike card game. So now imagine if it was just a card game and they tried turning it into a racing game. That would be very tough for them to do, like because they didn't kind of start with that. But again, this is kind of my goal is take the base game and turn it into a like a roguelite. And by the way, the reason behind this goal is because we could just extend the base game, but there wouldn't be much replayability, and it would take longer to make content for this than to make randomized content work. So like 1 month I've said is approximately equal to 1 hour of 1 month of dev time is approximately equal to 1 hour of gameplay from players. So if I spend 3 months, I would end up getting like 3 more hours of gameplay. But if we spend 3 months on challenge mode, we'd end up getting like maybe 5 to 10 more hours of gameplay. I wonder if that's a response to the timer lose condition though, is because people went into challenge mode expecting a similar experience. It's kind of not compatible with the idea to make these expectations match. Uh, it's possible. I mean, part of what happened is from my like first set of conclusions, and I probably have this written down somewhere so I can just show you the context of this because I remember using the words ease people in. Oh, unfortunately, we can't search for it at the beginning of a bullet point because it's finding the word increase everywhere. I want to just find the word ease, but if I search with a space at the beginning, oh, regular expressions. Wow. Okay, so we could just put /s here, right? Wow, I did not know they added that. That's incredible. All right, but now how do I see the actual text it's finding? Because it is blocking everything. Uh, yeah, here's where we started to say it. I can't see where the first one is. There it is. There. Yeah, good. Okay, so when is this? Phase 1. Ease people in challenge mode. September 2nd. Maybe tie this to difficulty. Add a laid back mode that has no difficulty selection. Anyway, I ended up writing about this somewhere else. Can I search for this again? You can't. God, this is a bad UI for this in my opinion. And it even got rid of my search that I had there. Oh, that's too bad. Yeah, September 21st. I don't know. Anyway, I have it written in a bunch of other places. What was I going to say with this though? So yeah, first set of conclusions was ease people in so that they understand what's happening. I still think losing is not a thing you can do in this mode. I think the bulk of players will reject it. We got very, very strong feedback on the timer. Like the timer felt bad. I think this is something I will probably never go back to enforcing a time due to how strong the feedback was. And a lot of people said it feels like I have to speed run the game. And the base game was the opposite of that. So in my mind, this is like okay, this is a conclusion we learned. We don't need to relearn it. I'm probably never gonna go back and even try changing this variable. It's like, if we want, we can still do an optional timer, which is what we settled on. And we have medals for when you do better. Out of all the hours I've watched, I'm not sure I've seen, if you've done a thought experiment, what it would be like if you had most of the building perks already unlocked and the random perks were more focused on your newer fun perks. Maybe meta perks are about removing the less exciting ones completely. There had to be a lot and maybe too much dev time, but I do wonder if that could change the feel. Well, this is sort of what I'm wondering about with this category of 8 perks that I talked about, or 8 meta perks. Where are those? These. So it's a combination of, so like, what if we change meta perks to just be linear levels of 8 options? Start with X random battle perks, start with X random town perks, start with X random buildings, adventurers, workers, customers, and then specific battle abilities. So these should be 7, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah. And then the final one is unlock new perks. Hey, Chain. So I wonder if that would help a little bit. So essentially, to remove the less exciting ones completely would be to just start with some town perks. Like, we'd have a pool of ones that you could start with. And then maybe we end up adding a new mechanic, like banning perks from the pool or something. Because I think if you started with all of the, one of the reasons why you probably haven't heard me talk about the starting with everything. So starting with everything leads to, you only have 3 things you can buy: treasure chests, town perks, and battle perks. And this is the only thing to spend sludge on. So there's no real decision there. It's not, do I buy this now or do I save it for something else? It's just, which one of these do I get? So your only decision with gold is, do I get a treasure chest or do I get a town perk? And this is not a very interesting decision. So that was my problem with, if you start with everything, is that your decision tree is cut down to literally just like, which of the 3 things am I picking? At least when it comes to spending money. I know there are other things you do, like, where am I putting my focus? Where am I battling? Which adventurers are going where? But I think that's why I end up rejecting this. But I haven't actually tried it, I guess. And I think the reason why I also haven't tried it is because every run eventually can get to this point, especially now that there's no timer, no enforced timer. If your initial genre is not roguelike, it'll be difficult to make a roguelike because the original idea wasn't built on mechanics. Yeah. Maybe the timer makes it more of a competitive game, especially when it comes to roguelike. People generally like hack and slash rather than being competitive about it. I think the competition in a single player game really only comes around through leaderboards. So either fastest time or fewest perks or something like that. And I don't think it's going to appeal to everyone, especially when the original game isn't very competitive. But I think that's something that could be tacked on at the end pretty easily without changing too much. Like, if there were a leaderboard and someone wanted to ignore it, they could just ignore it. But if that's developed because it's intended to be the drive of that mode, I think that would not probably succeed. Again, in this genre with this particular game. Racing games are like the only, I think, universally accepted game where time is obviously super important. It is literally a race. So having a leaderboard for that is like a very core feature. At the end of every race, you definitely want to see, like, what place did I come in? Am I in second place? Am I in first place? How many points did I get or whatever? But for most other kinds of games, I think having a time limit feels like there's pressure. I think it'd be interesting to rebrand it. Yeah, I think it's off the table. And I think the rebranding is pretty important as well. I think I'm going to rename it to Bone Mode, where Bone stands for business optimization via new expansions. Because in my mind, this is like the lore reason for why we randomize choices. And it's fitting with Skeleseller, and there's some intrigue to this. Like, what is this mode? So I like that. I'll probably rename it. I don't know if I'm going to call it like, I don't know if the buttons just say bone or like bone system or bone mode, but that's all very close to the same thing. The point is I'm going to keep probably this and drop the word challenge, and then maybe rename all the things associated with it. I'll probably rename challenges to scenarios. Or something like that. So yeah, Xyletics, I'm curious how you'd feel about this, if this would feel good, because I think this simplification is nice. I like it. I'll probably go with this. The button be in the shape of a bone. Actually, one of the things I wanted to try out, and ideally today, Quickie Joe made a PR for the Battle of Progress bars. Right now in the game, they look like... Oh, that doesn't work. Right now in the game, they look like this. Wait for it. Oh, wait, I need auto battle. Hang on a sec. Let's do that. And let's just start at, how do you unlock all the locations? I think there's a, oh, nice. There we go. Yeah, so if I just go battle here, let me speed this up. So right now the bar looks like this. It's just a blue bar. It says waiting for full health. He drew a bandage and then a red bar that goes on top of it, I think. And I haven't seen what this looks like yet in practice. But like these little changes are pretty nice. So a button in the shape of a bone could totally happen. I think you can still purchase random buildings, random adventures, but getting every 10 seconds of garbage time can eat an expiring item for the X time diminishes with each run. Maybe. Wait, when you say diminishes, what do you mean? Like the intrigue diminishes? Or the efficacy? Or the chance to show up? Hey, TJ. Maybe the meta perks could also be about reducing the amount of perks it takes to max something. Like instead of going 10, 5, 2, it can now be straight to 0. Intrigue diminishes, yeah. Yeah, so that's where this category would come in, I think. Actually, combination categories. This one and this one. But I see what you're saying, that you could advance, well, I guess they're kind of the same thing, right? If you start with X random town perks, this is sort of like cutting out levels for them. Maybe they're not even random. Have you considered adding daily challenges? Yeah. And I think that could be done, but I think that's the kind of thing that can be tacked on afterward without really changing any decisions for this. So I haven't put any effort into it yet. But yeah, I could see that working. There's another thing we could potentially do here. No, never mind. I was gonna say, what if you could ban perks, but I don't think you should be able to ban them ahead of time. Also, I think when a perk is less intriguing, that it means it shouldn't be offered. Like I should still be balancing these things. And you've seen me do this before, right? We took glowy fish just the other day from 4 levels to 3 levels. I know that if you're playing the run again, getting this down to 0 might be interesting, but also maybe the mode changes enough where we're expecting to get more of the perks. I'm not certain how that'll feel or what that'll turn into. Yeah, I like this idea. We revamp meta perks to be simpler there will be 8 categories. So all of this stuff. I haven't commented in Discord this round. I got to industry and just felt like I wasn't enjoying it in that specific run. Take my feedback with a grain of salt. I don't. If you played it, I think your feedback is still important. And I think if you're feeling burned out on it, it's important for me to understand why. So like, what was it about that run that you didn't like? Because industry is the one where you start with a bunch of workers. Because part of me wonders too here, like, let's say we have 20 challenges and people generally like it for, I don't know, 7 of them. We should probably just have 7 challenges at that point. So if it was like, well, look, I've already played a bunch of this, then we could probably condense it. And if it's something specific about that run, it could have been, it was probably a combination of things. And one of the things it could have been is that the meta perks aren't super exciting. I think it's feedback you've given before. And yeah, I mean, I tend to agree. I think there are a couple of problems with this sort of thing. I think there's also potentially a problem with giving you random perks, which is at the beginning of the run, you got to understand what did you get? Although it also means you could start with some interesting stuff. But yeah, the more you have when you start a run, and I noticed this in chaos mode way back when we coded that you'd start a run with like 10 perks and you take a look around and be like, okay, what did I get? I guess it's nice to start with something. Yeah, I could see this working. And I could see the simplification helping a lot. So rationale. Where did I write this down? Yeah, make it clear. So this would allow meta perks to work with any challenge, hopefully. And this would simplify the number of options. And by allowing you to unlock new perks, it'll feel like their runs are changing a bit. You know what we could do? You know what we could do? I better write this down before I forget. We could make it so that if you have no meta perks, you're only offered perks for buildings and adventurers that you have. That way it feels like a trade-off that you can start to understand. I don't know if that's a good idea. Had to leave for a sec, but I think I get your idea a lot better. I think a lot of my feedback was contingent on understanding how you want challenge mode to work differently. I guess you want to be more an extension of the base game rather than a different way. Maybe. It all depends on what you mean by this. So there's no major new content, right? Like we might add in a vault, which is just item storage that workers can't access. This isn't really a major new thing. It's just a different kind of storage. We're obviously gonna add in some new perks, but yeah, like I said, no new adventurers, no new bosses, no new systems probably. Excuse me. But as far as a different way, it should feel different. Like it should feel like, okay, I can play the whole game in 20 minutes now as opposed to 5 hours. Because that was another thing I realized is like with the main mode, what would we have done for replayability there? It would have been like allow you to make different decisions, but they're just not that interesting. maybe you'd play once and then be done. Once more, I mean. So that's why I didn't end up just doing this in the main mode. Because yeah, the way I see it is right now, if you go through the main mode, it's like the unlock orders are set in stone. So it's like you get 2 adventurers, then 2 more adventurers, then 3 more adventurers. So that's that unlock order. Buildings are generally in the form of the first set is the like farm, tavern, armor shop, warehouse. The second set, I think, is everything else. But eventually there's going to be a third set as well. So it's like, okay, I guess we just give you whatever buildings you want at any time. But it's like, that doesn't really work. You don't need the armor shop until you get armor. You don't need the weapon shop until you get weapons. The enchanter probably doesn't really help you that much early on. So I just, yeah, that's why we didn't do this for the main mode. But for challenge mode or bone mode or whatever we end up calling it, I think it'll make more sense. So, okay, I like this. Challenge 1. I still think I need to figure this part out. What do we have here? What are the final challenges? A customizable thing? Should we rename the mode? I think we should rename the mode. I'm just probably going to get rid of that. Should we change meta perks? Yeah. Rationale. Laws to work on any challenge. Simplify the number of options. People already said that the meta perks don't feel great so far. And people have given this feedback too. All right, so I'm going to delete all of this now. And I think the next important question is, what do we do about offering perks for things you don't have? Also, is this even a problem? Like, did I over-index on this discussion? Because regardless of if it's a big problem, we could still address it in a minor way. We could say the first challenge, you only get perks for buildings you have. Or we could say, if you don't have meta perks, get perks only for buildings you have. I kind of like this way, but I guess the very first meta perk you get might be like, oh, start with a worker. In which case, now you're not getting, now you're being offered perks for everything. At which point, why even have a special rule? I think that solving this problem will be, I think that addressing this will probably add more confusion than the frustration it would have alleviated. It makes a lot more sense in a world where there's a lose condition. So you feel like your choices are really mattering and you have a comparison bar that would make a build feel better than another. Either because you had a better strategy or got luckier. I mean, those choices still matter. It's just that it's going to reduce your time in the end. So, and by the way, that's what got us to these difficulty numbers. I just played through the modes and I was like, oh, this took me 21 minutes or something. So I set this to 25. And this one took me 22 minutes. So I set this to 27. So it's like other players could eventually get to whatever speed I was doing this at. And probably faster. Excuse me. So yeah, I think that's what it comes down to. Your choices matter to get you a faster time, but the faster times only matter to show you a medal and a minor amount of meta progression. I don't think the challenges feel nearly as good if the lose condition is it will take longer, but you can't really fail. Well, I think the clear part is there is no lose condition right now. But I think adding one back in will cause an uproar. Like what we used to have was we had a timer that counted down. So it started at whatever, 45 minutes. And then if it hit 0, the game ended. But it did give you the option to keep playing. And it just nobody liked this. Yeah. So I think we could add in a lose condition again, but then some people are going to be like, I don't really understand what's happening, or I don't know how I could have changed this, or then they start getting upset about their choices even more. And I think that last part was a little frustrating to see because a lot of people would get a choice in the game, something like this, or it says like, oh, increase appetite. This requires the garbage slime. And imagine that it said this requires the farm and this requires the whatever else. And they'd be like, oh, this sucks. Like, this isn't helping me. And it's like, maybe don't buy town perks then. But that I've seen this sort of like logic happen in a lot of parts of Skeleseller where something is not what's best for the game, but players still do it. And they have a reason that doesn't align with actually playing well, I guess. So I'll give another example of this. Let's say you're in a situation like this where you have the armor shop and the potion shop, and you're fighting, I don't know, over here. So let me just turn on invincibility because well, I guess I could just do this maybe. All right, I'm kind of messing things up because I'm cheating a lot. But anyway, okay, so here we're getting potions worth 15 gold. We're getting boots worth 10 gold. So a lot of people would have an auto battle running here, and then they're like, oh, but I have other adventurers. So they do something like this, and they'd send like the rogue to the forest. And guess what? The rogue's going to win, and it's going to pollute your entire town with potions that are terrible. And a lot of people are just like, yeah, but now I'm doing battle with my rogue. And then they end up getting frustrated at the game where they're like, I can't get rid of all these items. What am I supposed to do? And it's like, maybe stop battling. And I've seen this happen so many times when I watch people play Skeleseller, where they start getting frustrated at the game when it's like, you could just change a decision that the game doesn't even need to tell you about. Like, you're the one who chose to go battle here. Anyway, I think of that same thing happening in challenge mode. This wasn't just a complaint for complaint's sake. It's a lot of people end up getting town perks first when it's like, you don't have any of these buildings. So yeah, this is probably not the best choice to make. But because it costs the lowest amount, it keeps lighting up this button, and people are like, I have to click the button to lit up because that's what I was habituated into doing from the regular mode, because this wouldn't have been a problem where it's like, just hold off and get a building. And now the town perks you're offered, you'll have more that you can actually do with. Now, I understand that if enough players act that way, that it becomes a game problem. It doesn't matter if it's like, well, get good players. It's like, you have to make them want to get good, or you need to tell them, hey, here's how this works. I get that stuff. So that is why I'm trying to change some of this. But yeah. I liked it, but I'm in Max Fiend. Yeah, I guess it's not fair to say that nobody liked it. I think it worked for some people, but I think for the majority it didn't. I think I got a bit frustrated when I got a perk for treasure and decided to try to focus on it, and then proceeded to not get almost any more treasure perks. It was bad luck. I played on Friday, so my thoughts are a bit washed now. I don't think it was industry specific. I ended up costing the run and wasting time. I mentally consider it a loss if I'm not going to get gold. My own problem. Yeah, yeah. This is quite the challenge, because I wonder, even in this world where I simplify meta perks, only have like 8 categories, and you're like, okay, well, whatever, I'm going to lose, but the next run will be easier. And I wonder if another way I could alleviate this, I could help alleviate this by making it impossible to get gold the first time. Like, gold is set such that you can only get it if you have every meta perk. So now people could at best get, or we add in like diamond or something like that. Diamond is set such that you do this. And we're like, okay, well, you could maybe get gold, but even that's going to be hard. And like, the expectation is you have to come back. I don't know if that would make it more fun. So to getting X gold next minutes could be defeat X boss, or they'll destroy your town and kill everyone. The issue that I had with this sort of thing, because I talked about this on Discord, but oh man, I can't type. We had other objective ideas like collect X sludge or like beat the final location. And I think the problem with a lot of this stuff is that the game is centered around money. So like, every system touches money somehow, but not every system boosts beating the final location. So the only ways to beat the final location are through power progression. But you can get money anyway. It's just a matter of how fast you get it. So yeah, if we did have a beat the final boss as the objective every time, you could potentially get that sometimes in like 5 minutes by just getting lucky with battle perks, because that's pretty much what this would come down to. is like get lucky with battle perks. Now, if that were the objective, beat the final location, we'd have to change battle perks so that it's not just, oh, well, you got 10 for your rogue, so you automatically win. But yeah, I don't think these would be more fun than just collecting gold. And for what it's worth, I think that if we were to go implement this like right this second, that it wouldn't change any of the feedback that people are giving. I think they would still say exactly the same things. So yeah, I don't think we need to change that. They go into multiple battles at once and it causes unintended issues. It's that they're going into like bad battles, basically. The multiple battles part isn't necessarily the problem. It's that when they end up having a bunch of adventurers and they're like, okay, I'm fighting here. They're like, well, my rogue's not doing anything. So they're like, I might as well make them do something. By the way, there's a perk. This has rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. This is a very simple perk. Makes your adventurers transport and stock items. They only do this when in town. A lot of people are like, my adventurers are unique and then they can battle. So if they're not battling, they're not doing what's unique to them. And this perk exists because sometimes battling is not what's best for them. It shouldn't just be that they're doing their unique thing. Like sometimes you have too many items. So like stop a battle, let them clear out their items. So this has been like the eternal struggle as a game designer, which is that players want to apply their own expectations to a game. It's like the number of people who have played Skeleseller and have been like, where's the experience bar? There isn't one. That's not how this works in this game. And it's okay to assume that there's going to be one. And then when you find out there isn't, you know, hopefully you're not getting mad or something. But sometimes people are like, my adventurers must be battling. And then whatever problems arise from them battling because they just determined that this is how things should go in this game, they're like, that's a problem with the game. And that's what's frustrating for me. So anyway, some of that's probably happening in challenge mode and some of it is legitimate stuff that needs to change. And that's what I'm trying to delineate here, which is like, if enough people say, hey, I want more challenge, and then I add more challenge and it turns out to be unfun, then it means that I need to interpret that feedback differently. And that's, I think, where this skill comes in. I talk about the Henry Ford quote about like, you know, if you'd asked what people wanted, they would have said faster horses. And I still assert that if you gave people horses that could go at 60 miles per hour and not break down or hurt the horse, they probably would have been happy with that. But I think the whole point of this is that a customer identifies a problem, the creator identifies a solution. It should be something elegant. I tend to impose how things should go in my head versus how the game actually is. I think it's natural for everyone to do that, and I think this is part of it's part of buying things in general. You buy something with an expectation in your head. If it's a game, I'm gonna have fun with this game. If it's a product, it's gonna meet one of my needs. And then if it doesn't, or there's something wrong with it, it's natural to sort of blame the product or want it to be different. And sometimes it's right for the player base to do that. Like No Man's Sky had a bunch of problems at first, and the game was made better. So I assume they just took player feedback, and it took a long time, and they made things better. But sometimes people ask for things that are not realistic of a game. Like, I don't know. I see in every Blizzard game people complaining about basically every single decision that's ever been made. And it's like, it can't be that they're making every decision wrong. That's just impossible. You're bound to get something right after some amount of time. So the player base is complaining about all that stuff. Then it's like, either some people are honestly bothered by that, and it's a different set of people commenting every time, or that there's a general level of frustration with the game as a whole for not being sort of what they want it to be. I definitely assume my adventurers must be battling. Yeah, and I don't want to spell this stuff out for players because I feel like it does trivialize the game. The basic gameplay loop of Skeleseller is probably not what people generally expect when they play. So like some people want idling to solve every problem. So like Skeleton should always do exactly what they need to do. They should pick the right items. There should be like a priority queue for where you can battle. And it's like, that's not at all what I intend. So the basic problems I see are basically like getting too many items or not prioritizing the right perks, or what else? Yeah, like not moving on to a new location soon enough. Those are the basic problems I see. the game could tell you all of this stuff. It could be like, hey, I noticed you're getting a lot of, sucky potions and you've got higher level potions. If you thought of not battling, and a bunch of players would probably just ignore it or be like bothered that I even suggested something. So it's whatever. Just leave it to the player. It's like it's not stopping them from enjoying the game in general. Hey, Ryan. Actually, they're going to type, you should spell out to the player that you might not need to assign an adventure if you have too much stuff. But I think that's a mistake. Like, I think players should delight in figuring some of this stuff out, or else I'm basically saying, here's a game and here's how you play it. So now go play it according to how I think you should play it. And if I'm going to do that, it's like, what agency does a player have? Like, what fun stuff? Should I just always tell you, here's what the next best perk to buy is? Because I could do that, right? I could be like, statistically, if you got this perk, it's going to give you more gold in the long run. But I think players should be able to figure that stuff out. My ultimate goal, though, is to always beat the final area. Yeah, and in the main game, if that's what you're talking about, in the main game, that is what the goal is. It's to beat the final area. And in challenge mode, it isn't necessarily that. Can you create gameplay pressures to help players play optimally instead? Those pressures already exist. Like I said, a very real thing that I could point you, if I had kept track of them, I could point you to like 10 videos at least online on YouTube right now where people are battling in the forest, getting potions that are clogging all of their shops. They're losing, like, this is what's happening. They're having this many potions here, so workers are picking this stuff, which is worth 3 gold. These are all disappearing after a while. Like, the pressure's already there. Like, stop collecting these potions. But rather than just clicking this X, they're like, nope, I gotta have my adventurers battling. And again, I can tell players like, hey, this is not the best way to play, but I just think they should figure it out for themselves. And I the reason I feel like I can say that is because the majority of people who play the base game seem to still have fun playing it, regardless of whatever, quote unquote mistakes they make. So I don't think there's actually a problem here. I think it's just a problem when people say, this is happening, so here's the solution I want for it. Don't you dare tell me to not get more stuff. Most games, as games progress, the players find better ways of playing. Yeah, and by the way, a lot of these things do kind of solve themselves after some time. Like I've seen people, in fact, again, I was just watching a run last night where someone had a bunch of armor items here, and they kept getting annoyed that there were just tons of armor items, and then they finally went and looked over at their town hall, and they're like, oh, maybe I should just upgrade the number of customers in my town. And it's like, yeah, we gave some tools for solving this stuff. It's not going to be maybe perfect in every case. But yeah. Always have an adventure. Adventuring feels optimal intuitively. Feels optimal, but isn't all the time. So what's sort of funny about this statement is it's like players want to play optimally asterisk in the way that they think is optimal. Maybe capitalize this. And yeah, I've seen this play out a bunch of different ways. Anyway, I've like completely sidetracked. None of this is helping solve the problems we originally were talking about. I think all this spawned from something. What was it? Yeah, I don't remember. So yeah, I wonder if we change this. What about the offering perks or things you don't have? I think there is still an unfun bit happening there. I think it does feel bad to be offered something that doesn't help you now. And it also feels bad to invest in something that may not pay off because you can't influence the randomness too much. Some of this could be solved by banning perks. And some of it will be addressed by starting you with more buildings. In fact, I almost wonder if this should even be something you choose. Like, what if we just gave you one of these things every time you beat a run? So like in your run, you start with more adventurers next time. But in someone else's run, they got more customers. I think you should be able to pick these. Plus, I think it's more fun to pick. There's another thing we could do. There could be a mercy, like, timer or something. If you get 5 perks for a building you don't have, it builds the building for you. This is kind of interesting. I think this would be hard to communicate to players, but it would almost certainly take away the bad feeling because you know it would be a gamble. Other thing we could do is just lower the cost of buildings. What if you get the, oh yeah. Yeah, both of these are actually probably pretty interesting. Because right now, the way that building costs work, where is it? Increase perk. Yeah, this. Buildings cost this much. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, there are actually 6. So I guess there's a 150 at the end. So your first building is really cheap. Your last one is 6 times more expensive. And the total amount of money that you spend is 550 gold in total. So we could lower that so that at no point are you that far from a building that you want to get. We could also, there are a couple other things we could do. Yeah, if all we want to do is address this, I guess it's just a matter of, I'm not changing this for adventurers. Adventurers, if all you're ever offered, and I can show how stupidly powerful this is right now. So let's go to Battle Perk Choice Generator, and let's have it always generate, where is this? Here, Adventurer classes. We're going to set this to Adventurer class Rogue, Mage, and Archer. So these are the starting adventurers. And I'm going to just delete that. We're going to run this. And I'm going to show why this can never happen. Okay, so who are we starting with? Let's just, whatever, go to fishing mode. Sure, whatever. Actually, you know what? I think the farm would be a little bit easier. Just to show this is working. It's not going to change anything major. All right, so there. I'm starting with the mage. We're going to send the mage into battle. And I'm going to speed this up a little bit just to get this run going. But I'm only going to have the one adventurer. And you know what? Let's just give myself some potions. There. All right. I just wanted the farm to have some crops on it. Okay, so this stuff is growing. And I'm going to slow this down a little bit. And we're getting a pepper. We need one more crop. There. All right, so all this stuff would have been normal so far. But now the battle perks, we're only offered ones for characters we have. So I'm going to pick the mage. And now they were winning in 10 seconds. Now they're going to take, there's some variability with the mage, so it might not actually be faster this time. Depends on how lucky they got the last battle. But now they're winning in 6.6 seconds. So, all right, so far, not like broken or anything. And also, you could have just gotten the 30% chance of finding the mage the first time. But as I plant more crops here, yeah, this is almost done growing. And that'll give us another battle perk. All right, there we go. So they just won in 9 seconds that time. I'm going to up them again. And now they're winning in 7.3. I'm going to try sending them a volcano. I don't know if they can do this. And let's speed this up a little bit. They probably can't yet. But all right, let's grow a couple more crops here. I'm going to just cheat this in. I'm going to give myself one more upgrade. And this problem will start to show itself pretty rapidly. All right, one more upgrade. That eventually they'll be able to like solo places they shouldn't be able to beat. I don't know why I'm doing this. I could just have all the adventurers in a party. I could hire the other ones that you have. Yeah, so now they're winning in the volcano. If I give them another like few battle perks, they'll probably be able to win in even other locations that they shouldn't be able to win in. But yeah, this is why this is never happening. I think my experience and feedback for challenge mode might have been heavily oriented by coming into it with the expectation that it need to be hard, failable, etc. Not so much as an extension of the game that plays differently and lasts longer. Changing the branding might be important. Yeah. Yeah, it's always kind of funny because, and this is why I say feedback is only really helpful with some context. You come up with a problem X. Maybe it's something players are saying, hey, the game is too hard. The solution could always just be call the mode very hard mode. And now you might never hear people say the game is too hard anymore because they're like, well, it's called very hard mode, so I probably shouldn't complain about the difficulty. It was like right there on the tin. And sometimes the solution is, make the game easier somehow. Obviously, this is way harder than just changing the name of the mode. Hey, Brega. Welcome in. So one of these things could be done, and I think that's it. I think that would make the game feel a lot better. But at that point, what is, like, we probably need to rebalance a bunch of stuff. I wonder how we would make it clear to you with this mercy timer. Because I think the mercy timer is the slightly nicer way of doing it. But if we're going to eventually let you unlock all the buildings by default anyway, then there's no real point in even having the mercy timer. Well, I guess the easiest thing we could do is say this requires the fishing pond, unlock 2 more battle perks to just get the fishing pond for free. Yeah. Now I get why you were asking, okay, but why would you feel bad about getting things you won't use right now if it doesn't really matter if you win in time? But I was under the impression it must matter, or else why would you play it? Yeah, by the way, if it matters and you're not having fun, if it matters, sorry, let me put this, to you and you're not having fun, then it's still a problem. So to be clear, it's like if for whatever reason someone out there is like, I refuse to stop battling in the forest, even though I know it's best. In this case, first of all, my response would be like, I don't care about this person as a player, since this is a weird stance to take. But if for whatever reason, like 500 people were saying this, I'd be like, all right, well, we have to solve the problem then, right? Because probably 500 more people will say it. But yeah, if it's some like out there take like, oh, I should be able to whatever queue up 7 battles at once, it's like, the game doesn't need that. Hey, Bazooka. Yeah, I'm gonna actually take a quick break myself because I've been rambling for a while. Is it jump time? It's jump time. Okay, hello again, everybody. Close the game. GG. Random weird idea that definitely doesn't fit the mainline gameplay, but could be fun. What if you only got perks for buildings you didn't have? And then eventually a perk choice round would be 3 of build some building you've gotten perks for. I think the problem we know we have right now is that people don't like being offered perks for things they don't have. So that is one mitigation for it, which would be like get a random building that you have a perk for. These have to be perks you chose, right? I like this mercy timer idea the best, except for communicating it. Communicating it, I think the simplest thing we could do would just be to tell you, like, if you get 3 total fishing pond perks, you will unlock the fishing pond. And that almost makes me wonder, should you even be able to build buildings? Anyway, the reason I like the mercy timer is because it's a clear trade-off decision. Do I get perks for things I already have? Or work towards something I don't have? The thing I don't like is that it may spread you too thin. So I think the most elegant solution is just to make buildings cost less. Yeah. Because it feels bad when you spend 50 gold and then, well, what are the costs exactly? Where'd those go? Yeah, it feels, the current costs are this. So spending 25 gold doesn't take too long, or 25 gold doesn't take too long to get. 50 gold isn't too bad. Beyond that, you're potentially waiting for a while. So I want it to be some meaningful cost. Maybe the way it works is it's 25 gold and then plus 5 each time. To start, plus 5 gold each time. So it's 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, and then 50 for the final one. So it's not a crazy amount of money. And how much does that all equal? 225 gold. As opposed to 550 before this, I think it was. So we've cut it in half. That might be all it takes. And then this perk that you can get, the meta perk that says start with random buildings, is essentially saying start without, like, it's not really saying this, I guess, but it's kind of like saying start with 50 gold when you get your first one of these. Because now your final purchase is only going to be 45, so you save 50 gold. And then your second one is going to say start with 95 gold, because you don't need these 2 things now. And the buildings themselves give you upgrades or give you benefits. So it's not only start with more gold, it's also make the beginning of your run probably a lot faster. Maybe also there's a different workaround to abusing the just pick one adventure and building and supercharge it. I don't know if there is. If you're saying, like, what if we just offered perks for buildings you have? I think what people would do is they'd start a run, they'd build a building. If it's not the one they want, they would restart. If it is the one they want, they would play the exact same way every time. And part of the reason for that is there just aren't that many perks. Like, look at how I've categorized these. Warehouse only has 2 perks. So for whatever reason, those are part of your strategy. You get the warehouse, you are now offered those 2 perks. That's it. So it's like, okay, I guess if all you want is free guild supplies, you're going to pretty much just get tons and tons of guild supplies every time. If you get the garbage time, they're only 5. If you get the pond, there are a few more than the other ones. I guess the enchanter also has a few more than the other ones. But a lot of these are like farm perks. They're only 5. So the odds you get the specific one you want is 60%. I guess it's also, I guess you also get the ones that are just generic. So it's not quite that high, but it's pretty high, and I don't think it would make for interesting runs. I think the like roguelikes in general let you play in kind of two styles, either trying to force a build or like roll with the punches and kind of build toward whatever the game is trying to give you. And sometimes it makes sense for you to try to force something. You've got like 9 of the 10 pieces you need, and you're just like, okay, let's go all in on this. We're going to try to get this thing. Or other times you're like, well, I got this synergy package I don't normally get, so let's go with that for now. So I don't want people to force a build every time. I don't think many roguelike games want people to do that. Because at that point, it's like, why have random options at all? Why not just put the building signs back in the game and you just click one of them and you're like, I want the warehouse, so I get the warehouse now. Which, by the way, is another way of solving this. We could just say you build whatever building you want when you want to build it. And yeah, that's potentially a thing we would do. I think if we did that, there are a bunch of perks that would become kind of less meaningful. So I think I want to try with the random option and just make it cost less. And I think we start with this. And I think that's what we do to solve this problem. Make buildings cost less. Currently, it's... I gotta stop trying to find these numbers. It's this. We should make it start at 25 still, but only go up by 5 gold each time. Rationale. This should alleviate the feeling of getting perks for buildings you don't have. Gonna have to replay challenge mode with those different considerations in mind. What I would say is probably hold off until these changes are in too, because they might also make you feel differently, and they'll probably invalidate your save file. So, yeah. The only issue is that players may still compulsively click buy town perk because it lights up sooner. However, there's the meta perk that starts you with a random building. So that should also help. Players would basically theory craft a build, and then once they unlock it, they're stuck with it. So it offers a push your luck design where you could pick a building or you could wait to get more perks for it. I know what you're saying, but I think we'd have to force that perk choice round. And I think there's enough luck already, and I think people didn't really like how it played out. So I think just making this cost less might alleviate this. It also means that in pretty much every run, you're going to end up getting all the buildings. But hey, we're going to have a meta perk that just starts you with them, I guess. What tech stack am I using? This is all just Godot and C#. What's your opinion on the Mega Bonk game? I haven't seen it, so I don't have an opinion. Sorry, Code Monkey. Maybe the building progression is linear. Maybe as you hit a gold threshold, you just get the next one. Yeah, those are other ways that this could be done. I think, like I said, part of my issue is that there are only so many things you can spend money on right now, and it's only 4 things: adventurers, town perks, buildings, and treasure chests. So any of these that we remove, and meta perks will eventually probably remove these things. Any of these that we remove, or maybe we cap how much the meta perk gives you. Maybe you can only get like 3 random buildings to start with. So that you have to spend, what, 25 plus 30 plus 35? So 90 gold. Anyway, the more of these we remove, the more the decision tree gets cut down. And I don't like that. He's happy. We could cap X at 3. We could cap X at 4. Yeah. Yeah. Unlock new perks. I wonder how we would communicate what these perks are. This would be a little bit tough to do. We could make a special UI for it, maybe. Maybe you hover over it and it shows a giant tooltip. No idea how we would communicate which new perks you could find. But I think it would be important to try to communicate it. I got a question that relates to a hobby of mine. As a game dev, how would you feel if somebody broke the heck out of your game you made for the sake of speedrunning? I think in general that speedrunning is like a totally separate category of player. So having a broken game for regular players, I think is generally bad. So like let's say you can clip through a wall and you can fall out of bounds. Like, yeah, that's a bug you should probably patch if a bunch of regular players are hitting it. But you clip through a wall so that you can hit a certain point and it's like a ridiculously hard setup to do. Like, yeah, why even patch that out of your game? Speedrunners are liking it, speedrunners are liking it. However, I think I think that speedrunning gets a little bit stupid sometimes. And the best example is I have is in in Super Smash Bros. Melee, there is a break the targets challenge. And the goal is just to break all the targets in a certain amount of time. And Peach in particular has like a 1 out of 4,096 chance to pull a bomb out of the ground. And for this challenge, you need, I think it was like 3 bombs in a row or something like that. So it's like, okay, you're never gonna, you can't count on hitting this. And no one wants to speedrun a game where there's like a 1 out of whatever, 5 million chance of you actually getting the thing you want to do. So there's this like ludicrous setup for dictating your RNG. And in order to do this, you need to run an external tool, but then you can manually input the options. And it's just stupid. It's so stupid. I would have probably just, if I were the game creator here and I cared about speedrunners, I'd probably be like, speedrun mode. You cannot control your RNG. Or RNG is always the same. You're going to pull a bomb on your 70th pull, so it's not worth doing in this. But like this is where I think things are kind of dumb. If you need an external tool, if you need a bunch of setup, if there's like a lot of randomness involved, it's like it's not really speedrunning at that point. It's a proof of concept that people shouldn't be competing for. So yeah, I guess my answer is it all kind of comes down to what is the challenge, what are people doing to try to accomplish that challenge. Because I think Undertale had this thing where if you like kept a sheet of paper, you could skip a bunch of dialogues. Like that probably wasn't impacting normal players, so why not leave that for speedrunners? And then speedrunners can just self-determine their categories that they have. For like, oh, here's the run with using that glitch, and here's a run without using that glitch. And I guess you could say the same thing could happen here. People could just say like, well, if you dictate RNG, then you whatever, you're in one category, but it's RNG, so you can't know if people manipulated it ahead of time. Making meta progression more interesting. Have you considered keeping some adventures out of the pool initially and meta perks to add them in? Something that could be interesting too, though it need more content development, is adding stuff like building variants, like an enchanter's end with different spells. The keeping adventures out of the pool thing could potentially be done. Yeah. We could even prevent some adventurers from showing up until you've unlocked them. I don't think it's something I really want to do. Yeah, I don't think I would want to do it. And I think it's for a couple of reasons. One, we only have 10 adventures in the game. Two, you would have already experienced all of them in the regular mode anyway. So we're just withholding them from you. And three, by minimizing the pool in any way, then I'm assuming we wouldn't be offering you perks for the remaining ones. So it'd feel like a nerf if we actually let you unlock all of them. So actually, no, I'm just going to delete this. But yeah. Retired Android, thank you for the resub. Happy 1.5 years. How can I improve my typing speed? Yours is pretty amazing. I'd love some tips. My general advice for improving typing speed, I think I even have a command about this. Let me take a look. Ah, yes, here it is. All right, there is my general advice. Yeah, I think it talks about this. It's a you can ignore this. It's all on YouTube. If you just search for Adam Learns. In fact, I'll just link this to you. I don't know why I made you do this. Sorry. Where is it? Here it is. All right. This playlist has all my advice on this topic. And the one you probably care about is maybe general efficiency tips. I don't actually remember where I put it. But anyway, it's in there somewhere. Have fun. Enjoy. Is the game out yet? It's not out yet. No. It'll be another few months. There are a lot of glitches, but always wondered how devs felt about speedrunners doing that kind of thing. I tend to stay away from RNG heavy runs. Yeah, I think the other thing to consider is that if you wanted to get rid of some of these speedrunning glitches, you might end up spending a lot of dev time for kind of no reason. Like I said, speedrunners can self-police. So imagine a game like Breath of the Wild where they remove clipping. How long does that take? Does it have side effects? How many people does it impact? By the way, the number of people it impacts, you can reasonably assume is incredibly low. In a game like, at least Breath of the Wild, if you clip through a wall and you somehow die, the game will just auto reload, and you'll probably never clip through that wall again. Like, how many people accidentally clip through a wall in a Zelda game, any Zelda game? Probably very few. I'm not saying very few people did on purpose. Lots of speedrunners do on purpose, but it's just not common. At least not in a Zelda game. It's probably common in other games. Clip through a wall in World of Warcraft once. But even then, it's like, should they have even bothered patching that? Okay, so let me think about this. And then I want to... God, there's so much stuff to do. Yeah, the whole workers thing too. I want this to go to pretty much any number so that you can just break the game however you want. I don't want to cap X. I want to make it cost enough so that you're not going nuts with this. Some people won't mind doing like 4 runs to get 1 more worker. Cap X at like 10 or something. But yeah, workers, I don't think we should cap. This, we should probably like cap X at 5 or 10. This cap X at 10 or 15. Maybe don't cap X for this. Just have it keep costing more. And then this is going to be probably like bundles of 3. Maybe we allow 1 new perk to be unlocked per level to make it easy. Actually, that would be kind of nice. But then respecking might get super annoying with this. In fact, what if you couldn't respec? Yeah, I need to figure that out. Should you be able to respec meta perks? No, you know what? No. We should allow you to, and I should just make it so you can right click a perk and get rid of it. I just don't want you to have to click this like 40 times. Am I happy with Godot? Yeah, I am. All right, so the thing I got to do is I've got to like organize all of this stuff. Oh man, what am I gonna do? We gotta go modify. Oh, I can't do this on screen. Give me a sec. Challenge mode. I want to keep all of these things in here. Yeah. Also, I want to get this done by the end of this week if I can, which might be doable. Modify this document. Today is going to almost entirely be consumed by, well, not entirely be consumed by organization, but probably a decent amount. This is the wrong Friday. That's why I thought I didn't have this week, but I do. Friday the 10th. Yeah. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Let's put this on all of them. Oh my God. There, tab that in. And then it's the next week. Yeah, so I'd like to do another release to playtesters. Ask Rizabel to play again with these new things in mind. Modify this document, clear out this list. All right, so what questions do we still have? What do we do about offering perks for things you don't have? I think we already talked about this. And what if we had a final challenge? Yeah, this is an idea. All right, so the main question is this fun? Does this work? What can we change? So copy as markdown and paste this in here. That way we can take a look at it. Okay, so keep the first 10 challenges basically the same, maybe even remove the negatives. Credit to Monadic Bind for suggesting that. I think we should try it. The reason I put this stuff in here is that I didn't want this stuff to be too strong, but that's kind of the whole point of this mode now. Is just we should just call this like break the game mode. It's just how fast will you get to supreme power in this game? Yeah, pretty much what I'm thinking. So yeah, fine. All right. Yeah, so this is good. I like this. Maybe I'll just put a thumbs up, not a check mark. Yeah. All right, we should probably rename challenge mode to something else. Gives a wrong impression. Probably rename challenges to scenarios. How do I feel about this? I think we call this like bone mode. What do we have on the title screen already though? Story mode and challenge mode. Yeah, story mode and bone mode. Yeah, I think it's good. I like it. And then rename challenges to scenarios. Yeah, it's just going to be annoying, but it'll be very easy. After I bet Breath of the Wild, or after I beat it, I use the Guardian glitch where you carry one halfway across the map and then it spews parts like a fountain. How do people figure things like those out? Reviewing code or just ridiculous things for fun? I think in that case, it was probably ridiculous things for fun. Because gamers, I gotta say, as a whole, I like the community of gamers' creativity. I don't like the discourse that happens online from gamers. I think that's a negative, but the creativity is a positive. And I saw some just wild stuff in games. Like Breath of the Wild, someone said, "Can I cross the entire map in a straight line?" Like, I don't know how you come up with that. And then they set out and try to do this. Can I just like hold up and cross the entire map? And they had to like plan out where this path would go and everything. So yeah, someone said like, can I bring two NPCs close to one another? This concept I've seen in other games every once in a while. Like I mentioned World of Warcraft earlier. There was this one dragon that you could bring from like halfway across the world to a major city. So people would do that. They'd bring this dragon to a major city. It would kill a bunch of players. Eventually it'd get sorted out. But people just like doing wacky stuff in games. It was pretty funny. So yeah, the thing about spewing parts, I haven't seen that bug, and I kind of wonder what causes that bug to happen. Maybe they're considered to be dying, but only in loot drops or something. Reminds me of the plague in WoW. Yeah, yeah. There's been a lot of interesting stuff. One of the most creative things I think in sort of gaming history was the Twitch plays Pokemon. God, I loved that idea. In my mind, this was art. This is so cool. So for those who never saw this, picture like the Game Boy Pokemon game, and you would type something like up into Twitch chat or down into Twitch chat, and then the character would input that control. And at first, that's all it was. But then it got like 40,000 concurrent viewers. So it started going bonkers, and then they had to change it to some other things, and Twitch kind of cracked down on it. But that idea of let's have a ton of people play a game that is usually pretty easily solved, it was just such a cool moment. Absolute once in a generation moment. Yeah, and since then there have been tons of like Twitch plays a game, but they're not the same. It was cool because it was new. Too much free time trying to do these things. Time ideas. Actually, just this morning before the stream, I watched a Diablo 2 one-shot challenge. The goal is beat all of normal mode, but you have to kill every enemy in one hit. And like a lot of people wouldn't even know how to do this. It is definitely not easy. And I don't even know how he came up with this challenge, but yeah, it was cool to watch. All right, so I like this change. I think this is good. I think we stop the challenge aspect of things. Now this part, later challenges would just offer you less so that you're leaning more on your meta perks. Maybe this is where we start adding constraints with the understanding that you'll be starting with several buildings and adventures. Yeah, so I wonder how this would feel. You enter bone mode and scenarios 1 to 10 are just fun, broken ways of playing. Then from 10 or like 11 onward, we start imposing restrictions or negatives. Would that be interesting to players? I mean, there are only so many broken things we can give you before you've broken the game in every way. And I think 10 different ways of breaking the game is probably all I can come up with. Maybe 12 or something. But yeah, I think we can come up with 10 ways of making the game hard. And for people who kept playing the game up until that point, I think that could be fun. Plus, you'll have already started with like a million workers or whatever else. What do we do for that? I need to think about how a lot of this is going to work. This actually does need a cap. Cap X at like 15. And then maybe don't cap X for this. This does need some kind of limit at 15. All right, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think this is good. Oh, what am I doing? Thumbs up. Maybe these are where we start adding constraints. Yeah, I like this too. First challenge does start you with everything or only offers perks for things you have to show the crazy power level you eventually get. Maybe make it be required but have it be super powered. Maybe tell you after this challenge. I'm not sure I like any of these things. But I'm not really sure what challenge 0 accomplishes. It was supposed to be if we had tips, they would go into that challenge. Yeah, so maybe what we do for challenge 0 is we start you with a bunch of money. Yeah, I like that idea. Getting started. First challenge is intended for new players to get the hang of challenge mode. You can skip directly. Yeah, I like that idea a lot. All right, that's what we're going to change that into. Change challenge number 0 to start you with, say, 200 gold. The other challenges all start you with something. So this would let you mess around with perks or buildings without having to wait very long. All right, cool. I like that. Challenge number 1, all challenges offer. Yeah, just delete that. All right, make buildings cost less. So this is gone. This is gone. Make buildings cost less. Currently, it goes up like that. We should make it go up by only 5 gold every time. All right, so got to think about this. What's this going to do? Because this is, we used to have, oh man, I think in the last set of changes, we had a level or two where buildings always cost 25. And I remember once I went beyond that level feeling like, oh man, it was really nice when they only cost 25. It's just such an easy decision at that point. So I do think this is a net positive, but are there any negatives from this? It does mean more runs are going to give you pretty much every building. I guess one of the things I could still see happening down the line is you want to build up the farm, but you're not offered the perks for the farm. So it's kind of like what Xyletics was saying. And there's no way to steer toward that particular build. It's like you just happen to get those perks. And naturally what that's going to do is it's going to steer you toward buildings that have fewer perks to get the right synergies. So like the farm is a total of how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then technically also spicy cooking. Yeah. So technically 6. I'll just say an average level of 2. So let's say like 12 levels. Whereas this has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, so like the enchanter, although you don't need to max all these to get synergies with that, so maybe that's not totally accurate. And maybe some of these aren't totally accurate. Maybe it's all fine. Maybe we just do that based on feel. Yeah, I think in theory this sounds good. In practice it might not be good, but let's wait for the practice because it's so easy to do. Like I'm not majorly revamping the system, right? I'm gonna do literally this. I'm gonna go into here and I'm gonna change this to be 30 and this to be 35 and this to be 45 and this to be 50 and now we're done. Oh, wait a second. I think there's got to be another number at the end, 55, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, because you can get 6 buildings. Anyway, okay, now we're done. So yeah, it takes like 10 seconds to do that. So yeah, if it doesn't end up being good in practice, well, we wasted 10 seconds. By the way, I'm assuming that I can make the judgment call on whether this is fun or not. If I needed playtesters to be involved for this decision, then yes, it's more than just 10 seconds because I need to take up their sort of cognitive load on this. All right, what else? Revamp meta perks to be simpler. There'll be 8 categories of these things. All right, this is maybe the more controversial one. I like the idea of unlocking new perks. I wonder how many people would go for this. Maybe this should happen automatically. Maybe this should happen automatically. Maybe each challenge gives you one more meta perk. Or not one more meta perk, one more perk in the pool. That could be kind of cool. Yeah. The only problem is, what if I don't have a good number for this? Like, what if I want to add, like, whatever, 15 perks to the pool? But we only have really, like, 10 levels. I mean, we could add multiple per level. Maybe we front load them. Maybe. Okay, that's the only questionable thing here. Why would you pick unlock new perks over the other categories? I think it should just be automatic somehow. Maybe it's based on how many perk points you were given in total. Every 10 perk points is one new perk in the pool, up to however many we have. Hey, Chew, and hey, Sinan. Trying to recover a GitHub repo which got accidentally deleted that I owned, which had many forks and all. I was a creator and admin. I already tried using GitHub's restore repository, but it wasn't working. Any way to get back restored? I think when you delete it, they have you like type in the name and they say this cannot be undone. So I think the only way at this point is probably contact GitHub as soon as possible. Because I don't, beyond their, restore repository, I don't think there'd be anything else. Also, however it got deleted, I would say to try with all of your power to make sure that never happens again. Because it's not like, well, whoops, click the button. It's like, click the button, read the delete dialog, typed in the thing it has you type in, tried creating the ticket, but I'm not sure when they're going to respond. Yeah, there's pretty much nothing else that can be done as far as I know. Like yeah, I don't think there's some other option you haven't thought of. It's just contact them and yeah. Well, there is, I guess, one other thing maybe, which is you could make a new repo with the same contents. I get that the forks wouldn't be there, so I'd probably wait for GitHub to respond. But assuming you haven't totally lost the contents of the repo, you'd at least have some way of setting this up again in the future. But yeah, short of that, I don't think there's anything else. Also, I would say to back up the code just in case. Yeah, stars and forks. Yep. Yeah. Yep. Gotta wait for GitHub to respond. They probably have a way to restore it, but they probably don't want to do it for any like random person. So I imagine they'll be able to help you out. I wonder how many people contact them because they deleted something that they ended up wanting. All right, so yeah, how do you get this? I think it's a paid customer only thing. I mean, if it's a paid customer only thing, you could just pay them $7. become a paid customer and then learn a $7 lesson. $7 to learn a lesson is not very expensive. New to development, trying to dip my toes in game dev. Been coding here and there when I was 8, using NeoVim and Arch and YouTubers for my peanut brain as a new developer. You have a question mark at the end of that, but I don't actually see a question. Yeah, I'm not sure if that was a typo or if there was some other part of this that was supposed to be something different. But anyway, that sounds good. Sorry, I mistyped. Oh, have any YouTubers that I could watch? It's always hard when people ask me for resources for learning specifically because whatever I used was so far in the past that it's probably not relevant. And in this particular case, I learned sort of before the YouTube era was popular for learning some of this stuff. So hard for me to say. I'd probably just search for whatever topic you want to know. Like if you're trying to use Unity, I'd be like Unity tips or something like that. Maybe I'd look through some of these. And then if any of these channels are good, I'd just go watch more of their videos. And if you're looking for whatever, I don't know, general game dev tips or something like that, I'd probably search for that sort of thing. And you'll probably find people, like I recognize the name Thomas Brush. I don't think I've watched them. Yeah, some of these people are probably good. But yeah, chat, feel free to chime in because I don't necessarily know any myself. Okay, so would this be fun? I'm not sure which is better. Every time you beat a challenge, get a new perk in the pool, or like certain perk point thresholds. Maybe just this is fine. And I guess at later levels, we could remove perks from the pool that maybe aren't interesting. I don't know about that. Yeah. Actually, one of the things I don't like, I think I'm leaning toward this. Uh, Something I don't like about Slay the Spire is that you get unlocks for like experience points. They're not called that, I don't think. So you may finish a run and be like 1% away from the next level. That's always a bad feeling. It's nice that if on every run you get something. Now, granted, the way that Slay the Spire works is they gave you 3 things at once, and maybe there was some reason why they wanted to bundle those 3 things together, so they needed to do it at a reasonable enough milestone. But I don't think there actually was. I think it was probably just like let's cut down on the number of unlocks you get. So yeah, I think we just do this every time you beat a challenge. So we don't have 8 categories, we have 7. Allow for unlocking new perks as you beat challenges. 1 perk per challenge. It'll probably be the generated ones. How many generated ones do we have? How do I even find those? Generated ability. Unfortunately, I haven't deleted all the other ones yet. So we need to search for this. All right, well, let's just count them. It shouldn't be that hard, right? This one is correct. This is correct. This is correct. This is not there. That's there. That's there. That's there. That one is. That one is. That one is. That one is. Is this one in the game? Income multiply? No, that one's not in the game. Where'd that tab go? There. Right, that one is. That one is. That one is. That's not. That's not. Okay, so we have 13. Yeah. We have 13 of those right now. Saw your recommendation to rebind caps lock. Yeah. For a lot of people, it's a key you never press that's in a very convenient location. And for the people who do press it, I guess you could just leave it as caps lock. All right, I like this, except that I don't want you to have to beat 13 challenges probably. If they all take 20 minutes and you'd be spending, what, 260 minutes, which is 4.3 hours. That's kind of a lot, and yet it is kind of a motivation to keep playing. I don't know how I feel about that. Maybe we give you two at once. Yeah. Note, we need to communicate what this pool is somehow. I'll figure that out later, I guess. Start with X random specific battle abilities. Is this even something we should do at this point? Isn't that kind of like what Battle Perks does for us? Yeah, I think we get rid of this one. We just have 6 categories. And maybe we rename perks to something else. I don't know. All right, well, this is still the most, maybe the most controversial part of this. Like, we currently have this, which is a massive menu of a bunch of these meta perks. But some are more powerful than others. Some aren't even really that interesting. And some people have commented on this too, especially specific battle abilities. It's like, you might not get the Spirit Caller, in which case picking this at the beginning of your run is not that fun. Yeah, I think I want to make this change. Okay, so then here are the ideas. Oh, the work never ends. I will say that. It's fun work. And some part of me kind of wishes I had more energy to just keep doing this stuff. Hey, sub tabs. Have I ever used those? I didn't know that was a thing. Oh, cool. I don't think I would have wanted to use it because I use headers within those tabs, but still it's nice to know. All right, so this is change set number 3. So let's just take the same format we had before, copy this over here, change the date. We're now 1 week later, and I'm hoping this is the final one. But even if it's not the final one, I'm hoping the next one is just 1 more week later and that this doesn't take too long. So after addressing the changes in change set 2, copy link to you and change the number to 2 and then do that. We got somewhat negative feedback. I wouldn't say we got somewhat negative feedback. Things seem mostly on track, but there are still some improvements to be made. All right, so what are the main problems? If I had to sum up, what do people say? Let me read through these. Okay, meta perks. Meta perks don't feel super impactful. That was one thing for sure. People don't like getting perks offered to them for buildings that they don't have. They don't like it technically for adventurers too, but I'm not going to change that. What else do we have here? Challenge mode. No major bug. When you right click to drop it on the ground, should nudge it slightly. The framing of challenge mode is, or like the branding slash expectation setting of challenge mode could probably be better. It's not really a challenge. And what else? Yeah, that's pretty much it. Anything else on here? No. All right, so general plan on how to fix this is over here. So just copy paste this. And then we will reformulate it. Rename or like rebrand challenge mode. Yeah. What else? Add the actual challenges toward the end. I guess I'll write this in. Add the actual challenges toward the end of bone mode. The earlier scenarios won't have negative modifiers. That way you can feel like you're breaking the game more easily. Later challenges offer you less. Sure. This is not a super impactful change, but it is a change I want to do, so I don't think we're going to write it down. Make buildings cost less. This is so that players who get perks for buildings they don't have won't feel as punished. All right, allow for unlocking new perks. This way, players feel like there's something more to work toward that will change runs. These perks could also change the feel of runs. I think 1 per challenge is actually kind of bad. Maybe it should be 2 per challenge, probably. I like that idea. Change the run a little bit more. 2 perks per challenge. Yeah. Maybe there should just be a perk library that shows locked/unlocked ones that you can hover over. All right, and then revamp meta perks. Good. I'm deleting this from the wrong document. No. Yeah, here. Cool. All right, so I want to keep this as a 1-pager. Can we trim this down at all anymore? Context of what we're doing. After the changes specified and changed at 2, things seem mostly on track. Meta perks don't feel super impactful. People don't like getting perks offered to them for buildings they don't have. The branding. I guess we can just delete this. I'll just delete this too. This is because the mode isn't really a challenge. Add the actual challenges toward the end of bone mode. Make buildings cost less. Allow for unlocking new perks as you beat challenges. Runs will feel slightly different. Revamp meta perks to be simpler. Cool. Should be unique challenges. 2 perks per unique challenge. I don't know about that. I think it should be 2 perks per challenge. Just make it as easy as possible. Whew. Okay. Well, I want to get started working on this probably this afternoon. We do these things really, really easily. Yeah, they're not hard. This one is probably annoying, but this one takes 10 seconds. And then unlocking new perks. So how do we change this? We change the perk generator so that instead of having everything here, it base it on which meta perks you have. Yeah, it's pretty reasonable. And then what about this one? We revamp meta perks. Oh, God. I'm going to end up deleting so much of the code I wrote. All right, everyone fill up your drinks so that you can pour them out later when I delete this code. Yeah. I don't think any of this is that hard to do, though. So we could probably knock this out by the end of Wednesday. And then we'll spend the other 2 days working on these things. Why is there so much? Oh, man. Yeah. I think it's pretty reasonable, actually. It looks like a lot. I'm probably gonna need to work a little bit more than normal this week. I really, really hope we're trending in the right direction, though. I'm gonna probably need to sign up some more playtesters at some point. So anyway, if someone's been listening to all of this and they're like, "Oh man, I want to get in on this," and you haven't joined the playtest already, please feel free to join. I will not actually share Steam keys until I've launched this new version, which I'm hoping is this Friday. So yeah, and then for anyone else who's like, "What are you talking about?" You can play Skeleseller. Let me link this. You can play the demo. The demo is actually required homework for you to be able to enjoy the playtest. Excuse me, because it doesn't teach you, the playtest doesn't teach you how to use any of this stuff. Hey, wait a second. Yeah, these are the new graphics, but these aren't the new graphics, are they? Oh, yeah, we have the old item graphics here. I think I wrote that down back at the time. Yeah. Wow. Wow. Okay. Well, yeah, clear out this list. I mean, I think I'm going to start working on this in the afternoon. So I guess let's write this down. Oh, I gotta get some food. I can hear my stomach. All right, processed all of the feedback. By the way, thank you everyone who participated in the discussion today. Pretty hard navigating player feedback. It is. It truly is. And I'm glad you can see this process at least, and why I asked you those questions, because I think they probably sound, assuming you never knew me or hadn't watched a stream or something, they probably sound defensive, like why do you dislike this thing, or would this thing fix it for you or something. But I think there is a lot to getting the right feedback and then processing it in the right way. Again, it's just kind of a contrived example here. If you have like 99% of your player base says the game is too hard, it doesn't necessarily mean you need to make it easier. It probably doesn't in case it's 99%. But there could be like some different way of approaching this, or going about expectations, or I don't know, cutting out a time limit or something, or yeah, could be any number of things you could do. Have I actually changed this? Oh yeah, discard that. All right, so process all the feedback from the weekend and came up with a plan to tackle it. Started tackling it. I haven't actually, but that's what we'll do this afternoon. So this afternoon is going to be, well, I still have a little bit of time before my stomach hates me. So I guess let's come up with some to-do items, but it's going to be tackle the third change set. I feel bad for future me who's going to have to unwind all this stuff. I did that on my last project. We did get some feedback, but nothing to this extent. Also mainly because our testers didn't get insanely engaged. Yeah, and again, that's why I thank everyone, not just for the conversation, I guess, but for also playing and providing some of this feedback. It's taken a lot just to get to this point. And as I mentioned, I hope we're on the right trajectory here, because it's possible that at any point we're making the game worse, but we're going to talk to a different set of people, and they might say, like, the game's actually better than it was, but it's not better than it was. I guess they wouldn't know if it was better if they hadn't played originally. All right, so we're going to convert this into to-do items. Should be pretty easy, right? Where did that even go? It's not easy if you lose the notes. Yeah, here it is. All right, so I'm going to copy paste this here. And we're going to put this all up into here. And yeah, start this. And I'll just make another thing, addressing feedback number 1, number 2, addressing feedback number 3. Paste this stuff, change this into to-do items. All right, remove the negatives from the early challenges. I think it should just be about breaking the game. Then what? Rename challenge mode to bone mode. Rename challenges to scenarios. Later challenges just offer you less. Yeah, so maybe like throw some constraints into the final challenges and make it clear for the final scenarios, I guess, and make it clear that they're actually challenges. I don't have something for bone mode. We need to go add that. Hello, edit. Where are you? There you are. All right, where's challenge mode? Where's that written down? There it is. All right, so we're gonna make BM for bone mode. Nobody comment on that initialism. And then probably spell it out. I mean, I guess we have, maybe I'll do bone M. Yeah, there. Okay, so now, and let's move, where's bone? There it is. Let's move this down to the bottom. Okay, so now we can type out just the business optimization via new expansions. That didn't work. There we go. Or this to type out the whole thing, or just this to type out bone mode. Hooray. So close this. Anything else? Change challenge 0 to start you with that. Make buildings cost less. Yep, that's easy. Allow for unlocking new perks as you beat challenges. Cool. Revamp meta perks to be simpler. Bloop. Cool. Yeah, so it's that stuff, and then it's the rest of this feedback, which I really, really need to process properly. So we're going to put this down onto Tuesday. Oh boy. Oh boy. Yeah, I'm going to just bump this down here and say afternoon. Organize all this stuff. Figure out this list. So we've already filled out the journal. I think we have journal on this thing now twice. Surprisingly, we don't. I don't know how that's possible. Yeah, I think we're in pretty good shape. Man. You know, one of the things I really, really like doing is proving hindsight is 2020. When you look back at a decision that was right and you think, how could I have made sense of this sooner? And I'm going to be wondering that for challenge mode too. I have a hypothesis that I think is proving to be true more and more, which is whichever game you're playing at the time of designing a game will slowly creep into your own designs. And I think Slay the Spire crept into this too much. And I just, it's too different of a game. And yet the ideas sounded like good ideas. I think the same thing happened with Hearthstone and Botland. It's weird because in both cases they were card games and they influenced non-card games. And granted, the things in Slay the Spire that influenced Skeleseller were mostly the Ascension system. Yeah, mostly that. It actually was not the roguelike stuff. The roguelike stuff came about because I was trying to think of how else could we do this. At least I don't think it came from Slay the Spire. I know that Slay the Spire has that. I just don't think that's what directly inspired that. But the Ascension system for sure. I just had it in the game and it doesn't make sense. So we removed it. But yeah, so hindsight is 2020. How could we have avoided this? And one is just play different games. But another is like, I think what would have helped is figuring out what made Skeleseller interesting to begin with, to realize that the change in expectations would be jarring. I think every decision since then has been, what is the most casual thing we can do? Followed by, do that. So meta progression originally wasn't planned at all, but it's a casual way of doing this, right? It's going to make the game easier. So we do that. And making buildings cost less so that it's less punishing when you get the wrong thing. It's like, yeah, just do that. If players are bothered by some road bump that they're hitting, we should probably try to lessen it. And yeah, it's sometimes difficult to figure out how, but it's not like we're making a Souls-like game. In fact, it's probably interesting to design a Souls-like game. Because I think they kind of wrongly get categorized as just they're just difficult. But there's a nuance to difficulty. You can't have a game be impossible for everyone and have most people like that game. It's got to be difficult, and I consider it sort of like spicy food. Like everyone has a different threshold for like mild, like right at the border of your spiciness, and too spicy. And for people who like spicy food, I think they just like being sort of at or above the threshold a little bit more than other people. And the threshold is different. They probably are at different levels. But it's like you're not trying to crank it to the maximum every single meal that you're eating. It's not pleasant. And I think it's the same thing with difficult games. You can always make a game more difficult. You can just ratchet up a bunch of numbers basically, but it's not going to make the game more fun. And that level of difficulty is generally not like fun difficulty to begin with. I've been programming a combat system for a game, and on my first attempt, I didn't plan much before going into it, so I was just assuming things and programming systems like that, though they didn't match the initial idea. Copied a lot from WoW, then scrapped everything and planned more. Got something I'm much more happy with, yeah. Yeah, but still, I don't think it's super obvious until you try some of these things out. Like they sound decent enough on paper, and actually, we could potentially. Here's the thing: I'm talking about hindsight, but we're in a situation now where we are able to look forward and think, will these things be fun? And surface level, they seem like they would be. Well, some are not really about fun. Some are just about setting expectations. But yeah, will buildings costing less do a good thing for the game? Will unlocking perks as you beat challenges do a good thing for the game? I sure hope so. So yeah, I think we've got enough of a plan for the afternoon. I am going to go get a bunch of food. It's 11:42. I've been streaming for about 3 hours and a quarter. I took one break. So yeah, I think the plan will be spend about 2 to 3 hours coding this afternoon to try to change some of these things. And like I said, I think we can get done with most of this list. The goal is by the end of Wednesday. Goal, finish this by the end of today. Where it's these things. So thank you all for watching. I will leave you with a Discord link. And I'll be back in about an hour. Probably be about 1 o'clock-ish my time when I restart. So I will see you all then. Take care. Have a good rest of your day.